Stick with me, you and I are about to watch an epic Isekai glow-up unfold. 1 second later, a ruined hut, and a stunning, shaking girl right beside me. She was sobbing hard, begging for mercy, and actually calling me her husband. Her name was Chinger Wonking. Wildly enough, she was my bride. Alien memories suddenly rushed into my brain, making everything crystal clear. I had officially crossed over into a completely new body and world. Welcome to the Daily Empire, specifically Saiwa Village. The whole empire was crumbling, enemies invading, shady officials robbing everyone blind, and massive famine taking over everything. This new body? A totally worthless local thug who drank constantly. But somehow, this massive loser had managed to marry two gorgeous sisters from a once wealthy family. The Moose sisters, Wonking and Chinger. Their family had been incredibly desperate. Local laws forced any girl over 13 to marry, or their relatives faced severe punishment. So these two absolute beauties ended up stuck with this total trash. And what did the original guy do? He drank away their entire dowry in months, hit them, starved them, and treated them like absolute garbage. Now, the place had zero food and zero cash. I got up and scanned the completely bare walls. These two girls had endured all that pain. That really meant something. The older sister left early, digging for wild veggies, and still had not returned, raising my anxiety. Meanwhile, the younger one, Chinger, was shaking with pure terror. She kept nervously offering herself up, pleading with me to never sell her away. Turns out, the Oldnie had already agreed to trade her to a tavern to clear his debts. A heavy wave of guilt washed over me for his terrible past choices. I softly told her to stop being afraid, promising that I would protect both her and her sister from now on. Now watch closely. She stared in pure disbelief, thinking my kindness was just a trick, before something even worse happened. I got my priorities totally straight. Survival came first, everything else second. My past training meant I could easily hunt. If I could just find us food and some quick cash, I could definitely carve out a solid life here. But with northern barbarians pushing hard against the border, time was running out. I had to move. Stepping back inside, I saw the older sister Wonking had just returned, holding a basket of raw wild vegetables. Seeing Chinger crying, she instantly dropped to her knees, begging me to spare her sister while offering to cook right away. But as she moved, a deep thorn wound on her back split wide open again. She bit her lip, desperately fighting back tears. I was getting pretty frustrated. These two were so terrified of me, they could barely function. I told them firmly, just stay home, make some soup, eat, and wait. I was heading out to secure some actual meat. They just stared at me, not believing a single word. When I repeated my order firmly, they flinched like I was about to strike them. The original Lu Fen had permanently burned that awful fear into their minds. I skipped the long explanations. Time would prove I was different. Now, grabbing a rusty little blade and a bag, I left. What I totally missed was the sisters breaking down behind me. They genuinely thought that bag meant they were getting sold off. Wonking told her sister that if anyone tried touching them, they would leave this world together. Things were honestly that dark. I marched right past the village toward the high mountains. The local river was completely empty. You and I know standard survival logic, but nobody dared hunt those dangerous hills. Without proper gear, wild beasts could easily tear you apart. But that meant those mountains were still packed with untouched game. My new body was practically a skeleton. I urgently needed heavy protein to rebuild my stats. Autumn was ideal. The animals were all plump, prepping for winter. Zero bows, zero real weapons, just a basic wooden spear I carved while hiking up. But setting traps, that was my specialty. Using local vines and branches, I rigged multiple snares incredibly fast. Then luck struck. A civet cat appeared, sniffing for fruit, totally blind to my presence. Creeping behind a thick tree, I waited for the perfect angle and launched my spear with every ounce of strength. It desperately tried dodging, but I had already predicted its exact path. The wooden spear punched clean through its body. A rapid knife strike secured the prize. I tossed the heavy catch over my shoulder and sprinted downhill fast. The heavy scent attracts fierce predators, and in my weak state, a wild boar would destroy me. While running, my mind was plotting. Civet meat was a premium delicacy. Wealthy folks paid top dollar for the flexible hide, absolutely perfect for making strong ropes. Down by the village river, some women doing laundry spotted me. They recognized me and immediately started whispering, "The infamous town drunk and wife beater." But seeing that massive civet on my back, their jaws dropped. They hadn't seen real meat in forever. They instantly swarmed me. One offered her company for a slice. Another boldly claimed she was way better than my 2 wives. Utterly shameless, totally desperate for just a tiny taste. I shoved right past them, out of my way. I brushed off those gossiping women without flinching, told them to bother their own husbands if they wanted food. They stood there completely stunned. You and I know the old Lu Feng would never act like that. You and I are jumping right into an epic redemption arc. Back home, found the 2 sisters staring at a sad bowl of vegetable soup, completely frozen and refusing to eat. They were waiting for me to eat first. That was the extremely cruel rule the old me had forced on them. I told them to eat. They just stared, so confused. Then I showed them the catch. Their eyes went huge. They had not seen real food in forever, but I could practically see the gears turning in their heads. Was I fattening them up to sell them? I explained my exact plan. I would prepare the catch, we would eat a good meal, and I would sell the rest to buy much better hunting gear. When they finally understood I was not selling them, both sisters completely broke down in tears. Seeing them in those torn rags, I remembered the old me had even pawned their actual wedding dresses for drinks. I felt a heavy wave of shame for the past owner of this body. I needed to earn money fast, at least enough to get them proper outfits. I asked for a bowl to work with. Shingir nervously told me they had absolutely no porcelain bowls left. The old me smashed the last one while bullying her sister. All that remained were 3 blackened wooden bowls. I swallowed my heavy guilt and made it work. I quickly cleaned and prepped the catch, hung several nice pieces on bamboo strips for storage, packed up most to sell in town, and handed the sisters a generous portion to finally cook. Once the food was ready, they handed me chopsticks and waited. The horrible old rule, he eats first, they get scraps. I ordered them to sit down. We eat together, I smiled. They froze. They looked terrified, like it was a hidden trap. Wonking quickly thanked me for both of them, trying so hard to politely refuse. I was totally done with this fear. I leaned in and kissed their cheeks. They turned bright red, totally stunned. Can you believe this? These girls were married to this guy for months and never felt one single gentle touch. I pointed right at my own cheek, playfully telling them to kiss me back. They leaned forward super shyly, gave me a quick peck, and then stood perfectly still, like tiny soldiers awaiting orders. I walked right behind them and gave each a firm but gentle swat on the backside. The first one is for ignoring your soup, exactly like I told you. The second is a warning. Disobey me again, and you will get more. That third swat caught Chinger totally off guard. She let out a soft sound that surprised everyone, and her face turned completely red down to her neck. Her older sister bit her lip, staying quiet, but I knew she felt it too. Then, out of nowhere, she grabbed onto me with tears in her eyes. She begged me to finally make our marriage real. She whispered that even if I punished them harshly, it was fine, as long as I did not leave them untouched. Because in this world, if a married woman remained untouched, it brought absolute shame upon her entire family. The harsh laws in Yuzhou even punished the parents if she never got pregnant. I just grinned, promising we would handle all of that tonight, one at a time. Chinger's face went absolutely scarlet, yet she looked totally excited. Her older sister stayed perfectly quiet and composed as always. Sit down and eat, I ordered gently. They obeyed, but refused to use chopsticks until I mixed fresh meat into their soup and placed it right in front of them. They just stared at the chunks of meat like they were dreaming. Wing tried to refuse, claiming I needed the energy more. I playfully threatened another swat if she skipped eating. That worked instantly. They ate in tiny bites, shyly sneaking glances at me. I finished my meal super fast and stepped outside to train. This body was weak, but the foundation was solid. With real food and daily exercise, I could get back into absolute peak shape. Now watch closely, because here's where the real action begins. While training, I heard footsteps. 3 guys approached. The leader was Lear, the awful village bully who ruined his past life. He had 2 massive thugs behind him. He strutted in, grinning widely, claiming he heard about my catch. Then his arrogant tone shifted. He demanded I hand over both my wives so he and his boys could have some fun. If I refused, he would end me and take them anyway. I asked him to repeat himself. He did, even louder, adding way more disgusting insults. That was entirely enough. I struck his throat so lightning fast, he never even saw it coming. Before he could even choke out a sound, I drove my fist deep into his chest, blasting him into the mud wall. Then I grabbed him and finished him off completely. Clean, quick, absolutely silent. Those 2 thugs behind him had never seen someone fall permanently before, especially not like that. They immediately turned to run away. I caught both in seconds. 2 more brutal impacts, 2 more guys completely out cold on the dirt. At the doorway, the sisters had seen everything. A wooden bowl slipped from Wonking's shaking hands and split right in 2 on the ground. They were frozen in shock. I sighed heavily. I hoped to handle this before they noticed, but Wonking really surprised me. Her voice was shaking, but she spoke clearly. I heard it all. You did this to protect us. I'm not afraid. Chinger nodded right away. I'm not afraid either. They were trembling head to toe, but they bravely held their ground. These 2 girls were way tougher than I expected. I held both sisters closely in my arms, promising them that everything would be okay. They melted into me. Then Chinger looked up, asking if I was lying. Trust me, you and I definitely need to see what happens next. Stick with me here. I met her eyes and told them to wash up. We were making our marriage absolutely official tonight. No hesitation. I hauled those 3 troublemakers up the mountain, tossing them deep into the forest. I figured the wild animals would easily clean that up. I gave the forest a huge pile of meat in exchange for 1 civet cat. Fair trade. I rushed home. The night was absolutely everything I hoped. Chinger nervously volunteered first. She was clumsy, but eager. Her sister quickly followed, and I totally held my strength back. These girls were incredibly fragile, and I planned on keeping them forever. No point breaking them on our very first night together. The very next morning, I woke up early, holding both of them in my arms. Waning buried her embarrassed face in my chest, promising they would always be ready. Chinger just let out a cute giggle. 2 totally different personalities, 1 shy, 1 super bold, but both mine. After washing, I sharpened my rusty knife on a stone. It was my only real weapon right now. I told the sisters to stay put, and marched into town with the meat. The inn bought 28 gin of meat for 2,800 coins, plus 10 for scraps. I regretted selling those bones. Those bones would have made an amazing soup for the girls, but I really needed the cash. Walking through town, this broken empire's crazy prices gave me a quick education. Silver was the only truly reliable currency. My massive haul equaled about 2 taels and 8 silver coins. Now, pay attention. This is important. An absolute fortune in a starving world. I listed my needs. Proper bows cost too much, so I got the next best things. I found a decent blacksmith shop out west and picked up a ridiculously sharp axe. Perfect for hunting, chopping thick wood, and even fighting. I bought some solid arrowheads too, figuring I could craft the wooden shafts and bow later. I also ordered a forged spear tip, draining 300 coins total. Then I remembered my poor wives shivering in their dirty rags. Silk was totally impossible, but I grabbed plain cloth. Cheap cotton mixed with fluffy reeds for warm winter bedding, plus essential pots, big bowls, and some basic household supplies. 500 coins instantly vanished. At the local grain shop, I realized food meant true power. Here, even rough grain cost 30 coins per measure. Clean white rice hit 100, fine flour 60. I mainly bought super cheap grain to survive the brutal winter. adding little rice and flour for variety. My final stop was the medicine shop. Both sisters had terrible scars from old Mi's abuse, and I seriously needed them completely healthy. Mountain hunting meant getting hurt. I absolutely refused to let my women carry old pain, especially with my huge plans for countless more nights, just like our last one. Walking out of the medicine shop, I noticed something strange. A guy across the street instantly turned away the second I looked at him. I had seen this exact same creep for times today, constantly lingering. When our eyes met, he glared and vanished into a gambling house. Someone was definitely following me. I immediately recognized the man tailing me. He was a runner for the local tavern and gambling house. The old Lufo owed massive debts everywhere, practically pawning away absolutely everything of value. I know what you're thinking. Was I scared? Nope. He saw my cash and wanted trouble. If they came, I would confidently settle every single score. I happily rented a sturdy ox cart and rode to Saiwa. The entire village came out, staring like I was some massive celebrity. Rumors of my epic hunt had already spread, but nobody dared approach me today. Not after yesterday's absolute madness. They simply followed my cart, totally drooling at the massive supply pile. Back home, greedy neighbors crowded the sisters, begging for scraps. One neighbor begged for rice, another wanted cloth, another demanded cotton for coats. The sisters totally panicked. I threw my axe straight into the door plank. It stuck there, gleaming. Instantly, the entire crowd went completely quiet. I told them the deal was super simple. Send men to chop trees for me. 1 tree equals exactly 1 jin of fresh rice. I desperately needed lumber to fix our house before winter. Otherwise, stay far away from my wives. Once the noisy crowd scattered, I handed the sisters several bolts of gorgeous fabric, telling them to pick bright colors and make themselves some proper clothes. Use the cotton to stuff a massive winter blanket. They honestly could not believe it. They nervously claimed the gorgeous fabric was way too fancy and tried handing it back. I could easily tell they honestly thought I was dressing them up just to sell them off. I grabbed Chinger's hand, ice cold and shivering. She claimed she wasn't cold. Yeah, right. I told them to stop arguing and handed over the medicine. After a good dinner, strip down and just wait. I'll carefully treat those wounds myself. They nervously shuffled inside, constantly glancing back at me, their hearts pounding fast, entirely unsure of what to make of this incredibly kind new husband. While they started cooking, I overheard them whispering. Chinger mentioned a woman named Xiaoang took them out foraging today, kindly helping them find a surprisingly huge basket of absolutely gorgeous wild vegetables. Xiaoang, that cursed name hit me like freezing water. She dated Lear, the bully I defeated yesterday. I instantly snatched that vegetable basket. The terrified sisters froze. Trust me, you and I knew something was wrong. I pulled back the cloth, and my darkest suspicion was entirely confirmed. These massive greens were perfectly grown. You and I know that in a massive famine, wild vegetables do not just grow freely. They are completely toxic. That woman intentionally tricked my wives into picking poison, trying to finish us off. I looked furious. The sisters fell down, crying and hugging tightly. They actually thought I was furious. Chinger pleaded to be punished instead. She promised they would never harm me, saying they were so thankful for everything I did. I stayed totally silent. I calmly searched through the basket, grabbed the bad leaves, and tossed them aside. Then I returned the safe ones and told them to cook. Waning grabbed the bowl, looking absolutely hollow. She assumed I was forcing them to eat poison. In her mind, she accepted her fate. Under Yujo rules, harming husbands meant severe punishment. She assumed taking the poison was my mercy, keeping their bodies intact. She completely missed that I was actually saving them, not punishing them. The soup cheerfully boiled while I explained everything. I brought them to the back room and carefully treated their injuries. When I revealed Lear was Zhao Feng's lover and intentionally tricked them into picking poison, they cried loudly. It was not from fear, but realizing, completely forgave them. Chinger kissed me passionately after I treated her injuries. Both girls devoted themselves to me that amazing evening. Any remaining doubts between us totally vanished. Later, I mixed those toxic leaves with some rice in a bucket and prepared to pay Zhaoang a little visit. Waning shocked me. She demanded to come along. She believed anyone trying to eliminate her husband deserved to face justice. I really never expected such fierce steel from a quiet girl, but I absolutely loved it. Now watch closely, because things get wild. We reached Zhaoang's place out east, and the second she saw me, pure terror struck. She had secretly tracked Lear earlier and seen me snap 3 necks like twigs. She was too terrified to sleep or report anything. No bodies meant zero proof, and the strict local laws would easily punish her for a fake accusation. Her sneaky fix was the toxic plant trick, making my sweet wives do it. But here I was, energetic and furious. I told her I almost let it go to avoid making unnecessary enemies. But using my wives to take me out was completely unforgivable. She suddenly tried to sprint. I grabbed her fast, shoved her down, and struck her face until she was badly bruised. No mercy. I called Wonking over. I planned to finish it myself. But Wonking stepped up, hands shaking, staring coldly, speaking firmly. She tried to eliminate my husband using us. She absolutely earned this payback. She pried Zhaoang's mouth open and jammed every toxic leaf inside. Then she grabbed the heavy wooden bucket and smashed it over Xiaowang's head. The bucket broke. Xiaowang dropped completely still. Waning, fell into my arms, totally exhausted. She quietly promised to never burden me. I hugged her, saying she was totally amazing. She was exactly the strong partner a guy needs right now. I safely brought her home to Qinger. I know what you are thinking. Story over? Nope. I still had a brand new bow to craft. Perfect timing. I scorched the fur, soaked the hide, sliced thin strips, and tightly braided a strong cord. The final product was not quite deer quality, but it worked perfectly as a medium-level hunting bow. A seriously massive weapon required hunting bigger monsters first. While crafting, a loud knocking surprised me outside. I snatched my axe and checked the gate. 3 skinny guys waited, carrying huge, heavy logs. I was totally shocked. Someone actually accepted my wood trade. The leader was Tian La, smiling and incredibly honest. He mentioned his wife shared the deal, bringing excellent cedar wood for my future upgrades. Wang San and Yang were exactly alike. Dedicated, honest guys, just feeding their hungry families. I brought the girls out with rice, rewarding everyone double for their hustle. Tian La kindly refused the bonus, claiming 1 was enough. Such integrity is priceless. With solid training, this guy could become an epic fighter. I promised steady pay if they just kept hauling wood. I swore they would never starve working here. They stood there, completely amazed. I basically forced them to accept before leaving. Seeing those logs sparked something. I held all the power. The hunting, resources, and clever skills started here. But scaling up required a team. That extra food was an investment in pure loyalty. Genius. Trust me, we are about to organize this entire crazy village. Stick with me here. You are about to watch him build an amazing life. Soon, even the governor will have to pay attention. I started planning the new house. 3 rooms, a main hall, bedroom, and kitchen. Strong earth walls and timber frames, perfect for every single season. Plus, a giant heated brick bed to stay incredibly warm inside. But I figured I needed over 10,000 mud bricks. That meant serious labor, which required money I did not have yet. One problem at a time. Later that evening, Tian La rushed back, totally out of breath, carrying several pieces of special ya wood. The second I saw them, I knew they were flawless bow material, amazing curve and perfect length. Back in my old world, collectors would pay millions for genuine ya wood. I rewarded him with rice and some nice meat, then immediately got down to business. I shaped the bow blank with my axe, lighting a grass fire. Yeah, wood holds barely any moisture, so it dried up extremely fast. Next, I boiled flour into a thick paste, wrapping sturdy hemp thread layer by layer to stop the bow from ever snapping. Deer sinew would have been much better, but hemp worked fine. The joyful sisters watched me with massive eyes. They honestly thought my house plans were just wild talk. But here I was, actually gathering up materials and crafting all my own tools. They happily went inside without a single word, cleaned up, and started cooking a delicious dinner. The place was a total wreck, but they tried making it a real home. After dinner, I crafted arrows while the girls sewed a warm quilt. Wang Qing worked quietly with a very sweet smile. Qinger just kept giggling and blushing whenever our eyes met. I simply could not resist. I scooped Wang Qing up into my arms and told Qinger to happily follow. Watch closely. Next morning, grabbed my new bow and headed out, grumbling away. My gorgeous wives were totally willing, but their delicate bodies lacked stamina. Wang Qing even mentioned finding me a second wife to keep up. The real issue was nutrition. They needed excellent meat and solid food to gain strength. One more reason to hunt big today. First stop, where I dropped those FOs. Nothing left, not even red stains. Some massive beast had eaten everything clean. A serious predator lived nearby. I kept my bow completely ready. In my current state, one tiny mistake meant absolute game over for me. With zero real medicine around, I went 30 minutes deeper until the trees grew absolutely massive. The kind needing several guys to hug. I hit the deep forest edge. Crazy danger and epic loot existed side by side. I climbed a ridge, scanned the valley, and spotted deer. My heart went wild. Deer meant everything. The meat was top tier. The sinew made perfect bowstrings, and deer stick together, meaning I could bag plenty. I crept up until I was just 10 meters away. A massive buck stood right there. Huge pointed antlers, rippling muscles shining in the light. A literal walking mountain of pure, glorious protein. I drew back and fired instantly. The arrow punched straight through its body and out the back. I did not panic, just tracked it smoothly as its breathing failed, and the red trail grew much wider. You and I know the drill. I had to finish quickly before the scent invited worse monsters. I sprinted incredibly fast, screaming fake tiger and lion roars to make the injured beast panic even more. Finding the perfect angle, I jumped off a trunk, drew my bow fully, and pierced its heart directly. The buck crashed hard, twitched twice, and stopped moving. I cursed seeing all that wasted essence spilled out. Deer essence was incredibly precious, totally wasted. Next time, I would plan much better. I lashed a quick sled together using thick vines, loaded my prize, and dragged it downhill fast. Back home, crossed paths with Wang Chongshang heading to work with his wealthy crew. Everyone totally froze seeing the giant buck on my sled. The chief had heard wild rumors about me upgrading my life, the epic supplies, the house plans, and previously scolded his wife for believing it. But right now, the absolute proof was facing him directly. His wife pulled his sleeve, gushing over those gorgeous antlers, claiming every deer part was treasure and antler wine was magic. She covered her smile cheerfully, teasing the old man with a very flirty look. The chief, Wang Chongqing, blocked my path home. Now, in his 30s, he lived way better than everyone else. Brick house, rich farmland, paid workers. But his first wife gave him 0 kids. So he bought a famous brothel star as his second. She exhausted him so much his stamina vanished, and she never let him forget it. He tried ripping me off, called me 3 legs, an old mocking nickname, offering just 2 pieces of silver for those epic antlers. He boldly claimed he was doing me a massive favor. So what do you and I think? I wiped my sweat, asking if he ever ate swan. He said yes. But had he really? Stick with me. I told him to wake up, and pushed past with my cart. But I totally missed his wife staring at my bare back like a starving wolf. My muscles and broad shoulders clearly left a huge impression. The gears in her head were turning. If her husband couldn't give her a baby, maybe another guy could. Keeping the Wang family name intact, I wanted 0 part in that drama. Returning home, upped the deer and headed straight back out for wild herbs, especially yellow essence root. I had spotted a bunch earlier on the mountain. The quick trip took over an hour. Heading back, I caught Wang Chongqing striking his wife near the fields. Probably caught her cheating. None of my business. I had a grand plan. Brewing. The local wine was incredibly weak and sour. I grabbed some cheap jars in town and built a makeshift still. I redistilled the wine, mixed in deer extract and yellow essence, then sipped. It hit like a truck. Real, warming liquor, packed with rare ingredients that wealthy guys would pay an absolute fortune for. A brilliant new moneymaker. I carefully butchered the deer, keeping the hide and organs. I saved 30 pounds of meat for us. The remaining 200 pounds, antlers, and medicinal wine were ready to go. I planned to sell it all in the county town, where buyers had way deeper pockets. But transport was a huge issue. I needed an ox cart, and the only owner was Wang Chongshan, the exact guy I insulted this morning. Swallowing my pride, I pocketed 100 coins and marched directly to his house. It was the absolute finest place in the village. Brick walls, showing off generational wealth. Meanwhile, most families here lived in simple huts. Now watch closely. At the gate, I spotted Wang Shongguan totally creeping through the doorway, with a goofy, nasty look on his face. He was actually spying on the wife. He panicked and scurried off. The butler finally opened up, but the moment I asked about borrowing the ox cart, his expression completely dropped. He nervously rattled off all the outrageous fees required. Feed costs, wear and tear, basically charging for the ox breathing. I slapped 20 coins into his palm. He paused, but kept making excuses. The master was out, so we could not decide alone. I cut him off. Since when does this house freeze up? I am deciding right now. Suddenly, the door swung wide, revealing Wang's brightly dressed wife. Hair damp, marks from her previous scuffle still visible. Seeing me, her eyes lit up with a familiar, sneaky gleam. She dragged me inside, locked the door, and laid it out plainly. Her husband was completely useless in the romance department. She desperately wanted me to help her have a son. In exchange, I could take whatever I needed from the Wang household, totally free. She wasn't terrible looking, honestly, but years of cheap makeup and a lazy lifestyle ruined her charm. Plus, I had two absolutely gorgeous wives waiting. I had zero interest in her, but I desperately needed that ox cart. So, I played along, claiming I had a special preference for washing up and wearing blindfolds. She just giggled, bragging about her wild past experiences, and hurried into the back room to get prepared. The second the curtain fell, I snuck right outside and bumped directly into Wang's brother, the creepy peeping Tom. A brilliant, hilarious plan clicked into place. I whispered that the lady was waiting inside, completely blindfolded, and ready for him. His eyes practically bulged out of his head. He thanked me like an absolute superhero. You and I both know this is hilarious. I grabbed the ox cart and bolted. Who cares if she discovers it? It was still their family secret, so neither would dare speak up. I loaded the cart and headed for town. The journey took all day. I easily sold the venison to the biggest local restaurant. The antlers and my deer extract wine went straight to a pharmacy. A passing merchant happily bought the remaining bits. Counting it all up, I made over 60 silver taels. Absolutely unbelievable haul. One deer could practically buy a house. I shopped wisely, getting 50 measures of grain. I grabbed a real iron spear, saws, and hammers. The cart filled up fast. By nightfall, I spotted a massive crowd. Wounded soldiers, heavily battered from battle, were lining up for their incredibly pitiful pensions. 30 taels for a fallen hero's family, less for survivors. Then, a familiar face. It was Mu Jia Wang, my wife's older brother. He looked incredibly rough, relying entirely on a wooden crutch. He was only deployed for months. Seeing him shocked me. This harsh war was completely chewing up good, ordinary people. It clearly meant the fierce fighting was moving closer. I needed to prepare much faster. So what do you and I learn here? Stay prepared. I bought salt and checked the livestock market as rules finally loosened up. Let's dive in. Famines are brutal. A skinny ox cost 15 taels, enough to feed a regular family for years. I paid instantly. Next, I grabbed a whole flock of baby chicks and a shiny new ox cart. The merchant happily tossed in extra feed for my huge purchase. I rode straight through the dark night homeward. By sunrise, the sisters spotted the baby chicks and the tethered ox. Overjoyed, they literally threw themselves right at me, covering my face with kisses. With famine everywhere, livestock meant a real future for us. Wangking happily sprinted off to gather fresh grass for the ox. Meanwhile, Qing began constructing a sturdy pen. Finally, this worn-down shack was actually starting to feel like a warm, genuine home. I took the borrowed cart back to the Wang estate. That lady glared at me like she wanted me completely gone. She definitely realized who secretly stopped by that evening. Totally not my problem. I just left the cart and jogged homeward. 2 days later, everything inside our house was perfect. I packed my brand new ox cart with generous gifts, premium medicinal wine, 5 measures of grain, plus rabbits and pheasants, announcing a surprise trip to visit their parents. Both girls stayed completely silent during the ride, nervously holding their breath. I handed Wangking a pouch holding 2 solid silver taels for her family. Staring directly into my deeply exhausted eyes, and touching her own brand new clothes, she began shivering with intense emotion. Suddenly, she looked right up and whispered that she and her sister wanted to give me children. I chuckled. I teased, asking if they wanted 8 or 10 right away. Chingra instantly agreed to right now. Luckily, the entire road was completely deserted. The mountain scenery was absolutely gorgeous, and the weather was perfect. So, we parked the cart and enjoyed 2 happy hours together before moving on. Afterwards, both sisters felt completely overjoyed. Now pay attention here. The Mu family lived just outside town in a simple mud home. Though their father, Munfo, used to be a highly respected doctor with a massive courtyard. But when his health sadly declined, he sold the clinic. Then, facing heavy government taxes and having 2 unmarried daughters, he was totally forced into selling off their farmland and the entire family estate. Now, the parents lived in near poverty, occasionally relying on their eldest son. As we finally parked our cart, the girl's mother slowly opened the gate. A graceful woman in her 40s. The second she saw her daughters, warm tears instantly streamed down her face. The girls dropped down and cried tears of joy. I secured the ox and walked inside. Their eldest brother, Mu Zhaoyang, was away working at the magistrate office. The second brother, Mu Xiaowang, rested outside in a simple bamboo chair, heavily wounded from his past military battles. A tired man catching sunlight while his devoted father carefully tended his injuries. I let the reunited family share their sweet moment and explored the courtyard. It smelled heavily of drying herbs, with shelves holding only basic medicinal plants. They seriously had almost nothing left. Eventually, my father-in-law walked over to greet me, acting polite but incredibly stiff. He had only met me once during the wedding, and he definitely knew what kind of absolute garbage my past self was. He only tolerated me for his precious daughters. I told him not to worry and began unloading the cart. Sacks of grain, fresh meat, premium wine. I stacked everything up right there in the yard. As the pile kept growing, the poor old man's expression shifted to pure panic, thinking I was returning their dowry. I know what you're thinking. He assumed I was divorcing them. A divorced woman here is ruined, and his entire family might face brutal exile. He rushed forward, voice totally shaking, asking what all this meant, and offering to help. He begged me to just treat his girls well. I stood completely confused. I came here to show deep respect, yet he truly believed I was abandoning his precious daughters. Before I could even explain, the sisters overheard the panic and remembered my exact instructions. Wangking proudly pulled out the heavy silver pouch, announcing the money was a respectful gift from their husband. The 2 sisters happily handled all the talking. They eagerly explained my successful hunt, earning silver, stockpiling winter food, buying an ox cart, and even gathering lumber for our new home. They literally painted me as the absolute perfect husband. The father's expression instantly shifted from sheer disbelief to pure shock upon seeing the mighty ox with his very own eyes. In this massive empire, owning livestock proved you were successful. With trembling hands and teary eyes, he grabbed my arm, proudly calling me a genuinely good son-in-law over and over again. He confessed he was completely wrong about me, eagerly dragging me to the table to celebrate with the shared drink. I warned him about my premium deer wine. It was incredibly potent, totally unlike the weak rice liquor common in this era. He waved me off, offended I doubted his tolerance, and boldly drained an entire bowl in one massive gulp. Instantly, his face turned bright fire red. He choked, coughed, and begged for water. I distilled that powerful wine multiple times using secret techniques from my past world. It hit at least 40 degrees, totally unheard of in this era where most liquor barely reached single digits. After finally recovering, his curiosity peaked, demanding to know where I learned to brew something so strong. "Trust me, you'll love this," I explained. "My strong brew could easily clean wounds and stop infections." As a dedicated, lifelong doctor, his eyes just completely lit up. "Stick with me." He got it immediately, asking if I knew medicine. I said just a tiny bit. He laughed until he actually cried, joyfully declaring the heavens had finally sent a true heir for his medical skills. He feared his wonderful skills would vanish forever. After our meal, the conversation quickly shifted to the war. Mu Zhaoang, the wounded brother, confirmed my absolute worst fears. The northern barbarians had finally reached Yue's dangerous borders. Enemy spies were already actively operating inside our province. If winter didn't stop this fighting, the family absolutely had to flee south by spring. That hit me incredibly hard. My money was mostly gone, and running south wasn't guaranteed to be much safer. I needed a much bigger plan fast. Then an epic idea struck me. The gambling house. That meant incredibly fast money. I saved that epic idea for later. That evening, the father-in-law arranged our sleeping rooms. I went to happily tend the ox first. Before sleeping, completely trusted Tian La to guard our home while we were away. In a starving world, you can never trust anybody. Leave grain and chickens unguarded overnight, and you will return to totally bare walls. Meanwhile, the eager old man rushed his wife behind closed doors. That legendary deer potion lit a fiery, unstoppable passion he hadn't felt in many years. The sisters covered their mouths, giggling as their parents quickly vanished into their room. Then that magical potion caught up with the joyful sisters. They drank more than usual, and those mystical herbs were definitely doing their amazing work. When I finished with the ox, they eagerly grabbed my hands, pulling me toward the bedroom, absolutely begging me to hurry up. The following morning, we delightfully explored the bustling county town, then eagerly headed home right after lunch. Now watch closely. Entering the village, something felt wrong. Everyone was frantically rushing toward the fields with sticks and farming tools. I grabbed someone to ask what happened. A massive, destructive herd of wild boars came down from the mountains, absolutely wrecking the vegetable crops. The awful famine forced villagers to strip the mountains completely bare of fruits and roots, leaving nothing for hungry animals. Now, those hungry beasts took food from the fields instead. That was terrible news for the village, but honestly, perfect for me. Free meat, zero. Mountain climbing. I rushed home, grabbed my bow, arrows, axe, and trusty spear, then charged straight to the fields. The sisters insisted on coming. They absolutely wouldn't let me go alone. When I arrived, 30 villagers stood frozen on the embankment, totally terrified. 8 wild boars were fiercely tearing through all the green vegetables below. The leader was utterly massive, 500 jin at least, a fearsome monster with terrifying tusks. Wang Chongzhen was completely losing his mind. Most of this land belonged to him. He screamed at people to charge, offering half the pork to anyone who could defeat those beasts. Nobody budged an inch. 3 workers already tried and got completely wrecked, so lucky to escape. The moment people saw me, their faces completely lit up. The village women were practically swooning, excitedly whispering about the hunter who took down a deer with a single strike, calling me the arrow god. Wang Chongxing saw me too, but instead of just asking nicely, he angrily marched over and unfairly blamed me. He claimed my hunting drove those animals down the mountains, fiercely demanding I fix it and pay damages. I casually sidestepped him. He fell face first into the muddy paddy, completely covered in thick black sludge. I told him his logic was complete garbage. With that attitude, I'd happily wait until those wild boars completely finished eating. We would see whose losses were bigger. I simply planted my spear in the dirt and crossed my arms. He crawled out, still playing tough. But you and I both know who holds the real power here. I didn't move a single inch. Then he actually tried going himself. He grabbed a stick from a worker and foolishly waded into the field toward that massive boar king. One single swing, and that stick snapped perfectly like a twig. The beast flipped him high into the air, fiercely charging and striking his back. Chaos erupted. He barely made it back to the embankment. Limping and badly injured, he clumsily stumbled behind me. Fine, whatever you want, I agree. I laid out my strict terms. Every helpful villager gets 30 coins straight from Wang Chongying's pockets. Anyone hurt gets an extra 10. Plus, all the boar meat goes to me, though I'd gladly share some with the helpers. He nearly choked, but with boars still devouring his livelihood, he had zero choice. He immediately agreed to everything. I pulled my spear from the ground and directly addressed the crowd. You heard the village chief. Anyone wanting to earn money, step forward. But when we fight, I give the strict orders. Anyone willing, come here. The villagers lined up eagerly. My solid reputation was building fast. Everyone knew I kept my word. Tian Lao Ba and his crew were eating exceptionally well since working for me, and the entire village had totally noticed. Plenty of others tried bringing wood to my house while I was away, but the sisters never dared make deals independently. Today was their massive chance to prove themselves useful. So what do you and I do? We plan. Boars are incredibly tough, and head-on fights equal absolute disaster. Instead, we fight super smart. I split everyone right into functional groups. Stick with me. You and I are watching Tian Lao Ba and Wang Sen lead their squads, luring those smaller boars toward the tree line to stop their free charges. Tossing rocks, they made those beasts crash into trees and massive boulders until they were totally dizzy and drained. Then I took them down. The massive boar king was my personal target. Pulling my bowstring back, the beast stood so incredibly close that my arrow could easily punch right through its thick armor. Aiming directly for the center of its forehead, I let go. That arrow buried itself super deep inside. Squealing loudly, the monster lowered its gleaming tusks and charged right at me. But that strike was absolute game over. Taking just a few clumsy steps, it crashed face first into the mud, barely breathing. With the king completely defeated, the rest of the hunt went super smoothly. The teams drove the smaller boars into pure chaos while I skillfully picked them off one by one. Very soon, all 8 beasts were defeated. Tian Lao Ba ordered the guys to drag every catch together. Then Wang Chongqing's brother, Wang Shangguan, confidently strutted over. This was the exact same troublemaker from that bedroom incident. The guy actually demanded half the meat, claiming we were tight buddies, and I used his family's trusty ox cart. When I totally brushed him off, he grabbed my collar, whispering that he had major dirt to expose about that crazy day. I almost laughed out loud. He was the guy sleeping with his own brother's wife. Why would I even care? This foolish guy had zero leverage and zero brains. Swinging at my face was a huge mistake. I crushed his wrist, and that snapping sound echoed across the entire field. Dropping to his knees, he screamed loudly. I slapped his shoulder super hard, popping it right out of socket. You love some flashy payback, right? I tossed my spear up, caught it spinning, and kicked it flying toward the pile of boars. Whistling through the air, that blade planted perfectly between Wang Chongwen's legs, just a hair's width from ruining his lineage. Shrieking wildly, he fainted instantly. I simply slapped him awake, then casually went straight to butcher the meat. Those wild boars and Wang Chongqing's money were great, but that honestly was not the main point. I wanted something way more valuable, genuine respect and trust. Everyone here watched me keep my promises, lead this hunt, and instantly humble a giant bully. That amazing reputation is easily worth more than any meat pile. I never actually eliminated Wang Shangguan. Making an enemy of the village chief over his absolutely worthless brother was pointless. Well, not yet. Villagers eagerly crowded around, praising our successful hunt, and begging for archery lessons. I started dividing the meat. Tian Lao Ba Wang, Sen, and Yang worked the absolute hardest, so each happily got a whole leg, plus 10 extra jin of meat. Everyone else received 5 jin of meat and 2 jin of organs. Nobody complained at all. Hearing those numbers, they were completely stunned. 5 jin of pork was easily worth 50 coins. Way more than they usually earn. Many were practically bursting into happy tears. We had over 2,000 jin of boar meat total. Even after so much sharing, the vast majority of it naturally stayed with me. But to these cheerful villagers, this was honestly the most generous thing anyone had ever done. Keeping Tai and Lao Ba's loyal crew behind, they helped process everything. I promised them a massive feast when the work was completely finished. Now watch closely. Things are about to shift completely. Heading home with the sisters for the ox cart, my instincts suddenly spiked. I forgot to post guards. Fortunately, before leaving, wedged a small twig inside the door crack, an old habit. That tiny twig was on the ground. Someone had intruded. I told the girls to hide behind a nearby tree, approaching the house alone with my trusty axe. Pushing the door open extremely slowly, a heavy blade suddenly came slashing right at my face. Blocking perfectly with the axe, I grabbed the guy's wrist, violently kicked him, and hurled him outside. Before I could even breathe, another slash came flying from the side, much heavier. I dodged into the yard as the gate slammed shut. A man holding a long knife stepped out, completely cutting off my escape route. His cold eyes looked exactly like a predator sizing prey. 4 more armed guys emerged from inside the house. I was completely surrounded. I recognized the leader instantly. One arm, the town's gambling house enforcer. Losing an arm years ago while collecting debts, he had been absolutely vicious and dangerous ever since. He basically ran all day-to-day operations for the mysterious owner, hiding in the shadows. Grinning at me, he mocked my recent good life. Ox cart, loaded pantry, 2 beautiful wives. Then he forcefully brought up old Lu Fang's ridiculous broken promise. If those gambling debts remained unpaid, the wives would simply be taken away. He demanded my money, the women, and probably planned to burn my whole house down afterward. From this extremely sneaky setup, I could easily tell more armed guys were hiding nearby. One arm was very cautious, never arriving without strong backup. But honestly, the exact moment these thugs stepped into my yard, they were already utterly defeated. They just didn't realize it yet. Bring out absolutely everyone, I boldly demanded. This isn't enough, he laughed. Want to lose faster? Fine. He instantly called out his absolute best fighters, the 4 dogs. Trust me, you and I are gonna love this fight. His strongest men had me totally surrounded. 10 elite guys holding very sharp blades. Stick with me, we are about to watch the ultimate ambush backfire. One arm smiled, completely clueless. This setup, exactly my plan. Easier to wipe them out when they group up. I dashed before they could even blink. One breath, and I was right in his face. He tried blocking, but my axe smashed straight through his remaining hand. A massive burst of red sprayed out everywhere. I flipped the axe, striking him down before he even hit the dirt. The rest charged. One swung right for my neck. Spinning fast, I finished him with one perfect strike. 2 rushed me. I dodged the first blade by inches, disarmed the second guy, then kicked a third right across the yard. They swarmed me. I rolled away, hurled a heavy wooden rack to make space, then dove right back in, swinging wild. Over in seconds, 10 guys, completely wiped out. The yard was an absolute ruin. I wiped my axe on one arm's jacket, quickly noticing the heavy blade had gone totally dull. Cheap iron just could not handle that many targets. I made a mental note. Someday I need to build a real steel furnace. I opened the gate, waving the sisters over. They crept forward, faces totally pale. They had watched the entire showdown. Now, pay close attention here. Watching me completely wreck 10 armed fighters in seconds? That totally shattered their reality. Waning nervously asked if I was some hidden martial master, a legendary warrior tired of fighting, retreating to this quiet village for a peaceful life. Chinger jumped in, eyes wide with crazy storybook theories. She guessed I was an elite underworld boss who finally retired from the shadows. I simply wiped the mess off my face using the cloth Chinger handed me, smiling silently. Let them wonder. A little mystery never hurts. Wei Ning felt much calmer about combat ever since she defeated that thug Zhaoang herself. Chinger was still processing everything, but getting much braver every time. I quickly hid the fallen enemies and cleaned the worst mess outside. Then, I hitched up the ox cart, heading down river to collect our wild boar catch. Tian La and his two buddies helped me prep and process all the meat until way past midnight. Good, honest, hard-working guys. I liked them more every day. I handed them grain and small jars of special tonic wine. They tried refusing as usual, but I practically had to force the gifts right into their hands. While working, I gathered intel on the village. Who was reliable? Which guys had potential? Which women were actually hardworking and trustworthy? Thinking I was just hiring for house construction, they eagerly volunteered all the names. I memorized every name. After packing the processed pork onto my cart, I revealed something I had been keeping totally secret. A bizarre new gadget I secretly got custom made by the blacksmith in town. It looked like a bow bolted to a wooden frame, grooved for arrows. Wei Ning just stared at the thing, completely baffled. She saw me bring it back earlier, assuming it was just ox cart parts. Nope, it was a fully functional crossbow. You and I know exactly what this is. Wei Ning asked about the device. I explained it was a crossbow, a heavy battlefield weapon packing totally devastating power. The local blacksmith had never seen anything quite like the blueprints I drew. This meant the Empire either lacked crossbow knowledge or the royal court banned them completely. Either way, a massive golden opportunity for us. The crafting costs were super low, but the selling price? Absolutely astronomical. This specific model was a heavy hitter, so ridiculously strong. You needed leg power just to draw the string back. I built 2 lighter ones for the girls, but no time for tutorials tonight. When I mentioned leaving again, they instantly panicked. Chinger grabbed my arm, practically begging me to avoid the brothel. She even offered to learn romance techniques herself so I would stay home. I nearly burst out laughing. I quickly explained the real mission. I had just wiped out 10 of the casino's top enforcers. Their boss probably knew something was wrong already. If I delayed this, they would definitely come back tomorrow with an absolute army. I kissed both sisters, ordered them to lock the heavy doors tight, and rode the ox cart straight into the dark. 1 hour later, I finally reached Hong Yuan Gambling House, the absolute largest joint in town. The place was massively flashy, shining bright like a palace. Skipping the front door, I scaled the roof, lifted some clay tiles, and scoped it out. What I wanted tonight was not just payback. It was silver. Every lost coin flowed directly into their vault, and I needed that stash. War was approaching fast. Cold, hard silver mattered more than anything right now. Tonight, I was striking hard. This casino kept 30 ruthless guards on payroll, feeding and bribing them with VIP treatment just to keep everyone fiercely loyal. Their top enforcer was Yang Laosen, the third master, a 9-fingered elite veteran who actually survived the absolute most brutal war zones. A dangerously serious fighter. Nothing like those amateur punks earlier. I waited on the roof for hours until the boss finally appeared. Boss Li, rocking a massive belly, waddling inside, surrounded by bodyguards. So what do we predict next? Yang Laosen whispering in panic, realizing one arm's whole squad vanished. Stick with me. We're diving into an epic payback. Boss Li called me absolute trash, shouting so loud I could hear every single insulting word. I just smiled in the darkness and raised my crossbow. The bolt locked directly onto Boss Li's neck. As a pro, I knew exactly when to strike. Patience is everything. I had the shot, but waited. Young Laosen was nearby. The actual threat. Better to wait for that absolutely perfect moment. Then, I released the heavy crossbow bolt. It cut the dark like a shadow snake, striking Boss Li directly. He grabbed his throat in sheer panic, energy scattering, his eyes bulging wide. He tried screaming, but absolutely nothing came out. Collapsing downwards, he finally spotted my dark shadow on the rooftop. His final sight, young Lausen, the third master, immediately dove right under a heavy wooden table. Smart instincts, but my bolt punched straight through that table, burying itself deep in his shoulder. He'd never faced a powerful weapon like this before. Wincing, he yanked the bolt out and decided to sprint. His boss was gone, loyalty vanished, but I was already dropping right through the roof. He turned, slashing upward. Way too slow. I disarmed him using a dropped blade, then delivered one final, incredibly decisive strike to finish it. He fell, knowing exactly who bested him. The gambling hall instantly erupted into chaos. Gamblers scrambled for the silver left on tables, fiercely fighting each other like animals. In that wild confusion, nobody noticed me slipping through like a complete shadow. Every time I passed a guard, another foe simply dropped. Now watch closely. This gets wild. Moving like a flawless shadow, I was totally unstoppable, until their top fighter, Big Head, spotted me, wearing heavy iron knuckle rings that could shatter bone. He offered 100 taels to whoever stopped me. That totally fired up the remaining guards. Big Head was super clever. When I swung, he grabbed an innocent bystander as a human shield. His heavy fist was cocked behind the trapped man. I bypassed the shield, barely dodged his incoming punch, and fiercely kicked him right back. He absorbed the impact, wildly, swinging again, but I was so much faster. My swift strike landed perfectly before his heavy fist even reached me. He took 2 more heavy strikes before completely collapsing. "Who are you?" he loudly gasped, as he finally fell. "You shouldn't have bothered me," I said, kicking him aside. The remaining guards completely broke, crying and screaming, calling me an absolute demon. I didn't let a single one escape. One injured man desperately tried crawling right out the back. I stopped him in the dark with a swift crossbow bolt. When everything was handled, I set the ruined building ablaze. The stored liquor instantly exploded in massive, chaining blasts. Both the gambling house and that connected tavern burned completely to ash together. By dawn, I was casually driving my ox cart right into the morning market. Behind me, county officials were already pulling ruined remnants from that smoking rubble. Among the investigators was Mu Zhaoyang, my wife's eldest brother, the top constable from the county magistrate's office. He had ridden through the entire night to arrive. I drove right past those smoking ruins without a single second glance, just casually rolling my ox cart past the intense crime scene without even flinching. Mu Zhaoyang quickly spotted me and waved. I just smiled back, proudly pointing at my cart full of pork. He gave a solid thumbs up. He totally knew I had visited his family, and everyone back home was constantly singing my praises. Selling over 1,000 jin of fresh wild boar meat took most of my morning. I hit every single inn and local restaurant before selling out. The total came to 107 taels of silver. I fully loaded the cart with grain, rice, oil, and flour, making it all highly visible. The real treasure was hidden underneath the cart. Stolen silver, banknotes, and some shiny gold from that intense gambling house raid. You feel that emotional shift, right? Turning that final corner, 2 familiar figures stood waiting outside our gate, staring anxiously right down the road. They had waited all night. The moment they spotted my cart, their shoulders dropped with pure relief, and happy tears filled their eyes. Inside, I revealed the incredible haul. Ching looked at the banknotes, then burst into tears, not from joy, but from overwhelming fear. She desperately begged me to never leave them completely alone at night again. Waning softly agreed. They didn't care about the money, they just wanted me safe at home. I promised them I was officially done with nighttime raids. That awful gambling house debt was officially settled. Permanently. Besides, who would actually protect them at night if I was always out working? Then I remembered the pawn tickets. That old Lu Fong had literally pawned everything. Land deeds, family valuables, even the sister's sacred dowry, all lost to feed his terrible gambling habits. Waning had secretly saved those crumpled tickets, burying them safely under a stone slab outside. 3 acres of prime farmland, pawned away for just 3 taels. I'm getting everything back. I excitedly shared my plan: redeem our land, farm, hunt, and build a real home. Someday, I buy the entire village and make them wealthy landladies. Chinger's eyes went incredibly wide. Wei Ning just shook her head gently, saying she'd be genuinely happy with the simple life. Then we counted it all together. Banknotes worth around 1,000 taels. Over 600 taels in silver. With over 2,000 taels, the sisters were stunned. Trust me, we just witnessed the ultimate fresh start. Stick with me here. We are about to watch our guy turn a huge pile of cash into an empire. First, he eyed the flattest, best land right in the village center. That was ground zero. Step 1. Build a brick kiln. He knew exactly how kilns worked from his tough mercenary days. Finding enough workers was simple. The whole village was totally available and ready to help him out. He only needed to give the word. After lunch, he sat on an old stone and carefully mapped out his epic plans. Pure exhaustion finally wiped him out. When he woke up, it was totally dark, and both of his beautiful wives were curled up peacefully right beside him. He did not hesitate at all. Wang Qing stirred first, and he playfully pulled her close before she could even speak. She gasped, instantly melting into him. Chinger woke up moments later, giggled, and happily wrapped around them both. By the time he fell back asleep, he was completely drained. Waking up the next morning, a hot breakfast was totally ready and fresh water was waiting. Over breakfast, Wang Qing dropped a massive bombshell. She wanted him to take a concubine. He almost choked. Chinger hesitated briefly, but then completely agreed. Their logic was simple. First, they just could not physically keep up. He was just way too energetic for two women. Second, and way more importantly, neither had gotten pregnant yet. Watch closely now. Without kids, the local Yuzhou law could snatch his land and force him right into military service. They had already seen the brutal army destroy their brother. They absolutely refused to risk losing him. Wang Qing had clearly been planning this out for a while. She actually had a candidate picked out, an educated childhood friend from the local county town. Clever, highly capable, and totally unmarried because her pride refused to settle for some ordinary guy. Plus, her poor family was getting crushed by government fines for keeping her single. He tried laughing it off, telling them to just relax. He promised he would never get dragged into the military anyway. But Wang Qing immediately pulled her sister down, and they both dramatically knelt. She stubbornly declared their minds were completely made up, and asked permission to send a letter. What could he realistically do? He totally caved. Wang Qing immediately grabbed ink and started writing away. Honestly, that brilliant woman was practically born to run a massive, powerful household. A super sharp mind, incredible vision, and zero jealousy holding her back. Stepping outside, he found 4 nervous young guys waiting in the yard. Local village teenagers, maybe 16 or 17, waiting there. They desperately wanted him to teach them hunting, archery, and survival. Each kid brought a small bag of humble gifts, whatever their struggling families could manage. One had dried herbs, another brought eggs, small but precious items. He accepted everything, because refusing would deeply insult them. He did not take them on as official disciples. Instead, he handed over spare bows and several pre-made traps he had around. These were not enough for massive beasts, but totally perfect for rabbits and pheasants. The deal was simple. He gets 1/3 of their catch. If they worked hard through winter until spring, those tools became theirs permanently, and the tribute rule completely vanished. The sharpest kid of the 4, Li Long, instantly understood. This was basically a free gift wrapped up as a clever hidden character test. They all agreed eagerly, but he noticed one kid, Wang Fei, stood out. Fast reflexes, but cold, highly calculating eyes. His gift was the cheapest of the bunch, a clever opportunist. He would definitely keep an eye on that guy. Those bows were simple enough for any average villager to craft, but the one thing he would never share was his custom crossbow. That was his true advantage. Too powerful, incredibly accurate, and dangerously risky to let the technology spread. He handed out those bows, tossing the absolute worst one to Wang Fei, because trust was zero. Everyone also got exactly 1 arrow. They lacked iron tips, but packed enough punch for small game. He tried shouting a basic safety warning, But those kids were so insanely hyped, they grabbed the gear and sprinted off before he finished. Meanwhile, inside, Chinger was organizing the kids' humble gifts. She held up something round and covered in dirt, nervously asking if it was poisonous. After the Zhaoang incident, she feared anything strange. But you and I both know what this is. He froze entirely. A sweet potato. An actual sweet potato. In this primitive world, this single ugly root changes literally everything. They grow ridiculously fast, yield tons, and easily feed entire families. Back in his old world, this exact crop ended famines and sparked massive population explosions. After a merchant successfully smuggled it in. If he could cultivate these, starvation would become ancient history. He frantically dug through the bag, finding one more smaller potato with tiny sprouts forming. Absolutely perfect for planting. He ordered Chinger to stash it somewhere super warm and safe. It absolutely could not freeze over winter. Come spring, they would plant growing seedlings. He told her to steam the smooth one for dinner. She looked incredibly skeptical. A dirty ball tasting good? Sure. After that, he just could not resist. Between the crazy excitement and Chinger standing there looking adorable, he scooped her right into his arms, carrying her toward the bedroom. Wang Qing finished her letter, saw the absolute chaos unfolding, shook her head, and got pulled in too. They didn't rise until late afternoon. Trust me, he was finally feeling genuinely exhausted afterward. Let's dive in. The sisters stumbled out, hair messy, faces flushed, cooking dinner. When that steamed sweet potato hit the table, Wang Qing took one tiny bite and her eyes went completely wide. So incredibly soft and sweet. Chinger tasted it and nearly squealed with absolute delight. I gave them my share and just stuck to rice porridge. Watching them eat with happy tears in their eyes was honestly enough for me. After dinner, I went for a nice quiet stroll around the village. I had big plans. Buying up land from struggling neighbors who pawned their plots and just couldn't pay. A few coins per deed was perfectly enough. Every landlord needs land, after all. But I barely stepped out the gate before my 4 apprentices came, completely stumbling right toward me. They were severely beaten and battered. The worst guy had his chest ripped open, face wrecked, fading fast. They actually went up the mountain with those flimsy boughs and fought a massive beast. I was absolutely furious. Those basic boughs I gave them couldn't even take down a simple wild cat. What made them think they could challenge a massive, dangerous predator? I hadn't even found the chance to warn them, and they almost got themselves totally wiped out. Absolute idiots. The 4 boys wildly babbled, trying to describe their fierce attacker. Now, pay close attention here. A massive beast standing up like a man, with razor-sharp claws. Their arrows just bounced right off it. I knew instantly, it was a huge bear. Their basic wooden arrows couldn't even scratch the absolute beast. A bear's hide is so incredibly thick that even a powerful rifle needs a perfect heart shot just to bring it down. I asked exactly who led them into the mountains. Wang Fei, obviously, the reckless one. I looked at his awful wounds much more carefully. He was already gone, chest ripped open, face completely destroyed. No saving him. He is finished, I told them flatly. Bury him somewhere. As for you 3, your injuries aren't bad. Here is some money. Go find the doctor in the next village. Eat well, and you will heal in a few days. They tried arguing about Wang Fei, but I shut them down. Gone is gone. Then I really chewed them out properly. Why didn't they just listen? Why charge blindly into the mountains like total fools? If hunting were easy, their fathers would have done it. Anyone can whittle a bough. That's why nobody in the village hunts with one. Because it's just not enough. I tossed them 60 coins for medical treatment. They were completely stunned. More cash than they'd ever held. Compared to Wang Chongzan, who always docked pay and completely ignored injuries, I was apparently a total saint. Right before leaving, Wang Dian mentioned the bear was already at the forest edge near our village. That was a very serious problem. If it wandered in, innocent people would perish, possibly including my wives. I also asked about that sweet potato. Turns out, Wang Fei had brought it as his gift. Nobody really knew what it was, or exactly where he dug it up, but the others pointed me to the general area deep in those mountains. A river valley on the exact opposite side from where I'd hunted the deer. The next morning, I geared up and went searching. I followed the valley for hours, found bear droppings and tracks, but luckily, no bear. It had moved on, which was a relief, but not a guarantee it wouldn't just come back. I crossed a ridge into another valley. You and I need to watch closely here. I spotted something dark on the ground ahead. I nocked an arrow, creeping forward, expecting the bear. It was a fallen horse, definitely not wild. It had iron shoes and a bridle. Its belly was torn open by something massive. Organs mostly eaten, flesh gnawed right away. Then, just a few steps past the horse, behind a large boulder, lay a fallen man. His weird clothes stopped me completely cold. Sheepskin vest, cowhide boots. Definitely not the clothing from the Delhi Empire. This was pure grassland clothing, northern barbarian gear. My brother-in-law's warning echoed inside my head. The northern barbarians finally reached the Ujo border. Their scouts were already operating deep inside our territory. This guy was one of them. A barbarian scout ended by the bear alongside his horse. The enemy was much closer than I'd thought. If there was one scout in these mountains, there were almost certainly more. The fallen barbarian scout confirmed my worst fears. Winter was quickly coming, and those northern tribes would definitely raid you for supplies. I wasn't ready. I examined his body closely. The wounds were absolutely from animal claws, but his actual and likely came from falling off the horse and cracking his skull. What really worried me more were the hoof prints. Multiple horses, not just one. There were more scouts out here. I tracked the prints upstream right to the river source. A waterfall poured straight through a cliff crack into a deep pool, surrounded by ancient trees and incredibly strange mineral formations. Cave openings completely dotted the rock face, stalactites hanging inside. Behind a massive boulder, I found exactly what I was looking for. A black horse tied near a cave entrance, fully saddled. A curved sword and quiver still strapped onto its back. If the horse was still here, the rider survived. I hid with my crossbow 500 paces out. Stick with me, because here is our target. Finally, a short man wearing leather armor emerged from the dark cave. He checked his surroundings carefully, filled his water skin at the pool, and chewed dried mutton. Stick with me here. He stepped out, carrying a fallen foe. And that is when I realized we were actually dealing with 3 barbarians total. And this absolute menace was about to dump the guy right into the water. Fallen FOs carry nasty toxins, ruining the pool and completely infecting every single town and village located downstream. These guys were planning toxic warfare. I fired my crossbow, but their scouts are trained from birth to dodge arrows. He heard the snap and actually threw the fallen guy in front as a shield. My bolt pierced the guy, but barely grazed the scout's neck. A minor scratch. He instantly sprinted toward his fully loaded horse. My cover was totally blown. I quickly scrambled up a thick tree and vanished inside. He came riding fast, laying totally flat against his horse to hide. Smart move with his bow drawn, but he forgot the dense forest. From my high vantage point, I saw everything. I needed him breathing. A defeated scout offers 0 value compared to a conscious one with intel. The Empire pays huge bounties for captured spies, and his secrets could save countless lives. Now watch this epic move. I swung down from a thick branch, holding my crossbow, dropping right onto him like an absolute beast. I kicked him right in the neck, knocking him clean off. The massive impact almost flipped the animal. Even totally dazed, this guy was incredibly dangerous. He drew his curved blade mid-air. Insane reflexes. I charged him with my spear. He dodged the very first strike, completely blocked the second, and instantly broke into a wild sprint toward the horse. I instantly switched to my axe and threw it hard. Hearing it, he dropped completely flat. But I totally predicted that move. I was not aiming to finish him. I wanted him captured from the start. That is exactly why I held back from the tree when I had a perfect shot. This was all a capture mission. The spinning axe handle cracked him right on the skull. He dropped instantly. I tied him up securely, then focused on the absolute best prize, his horse. a gorgeous creature, jet black and tall, fully decked out with a leather saddle and curved sword. The horse was totally not having it at first, wildly snorting and fighting back. I grabbed the reins and pulled down hard, then even harder. The massive beast fell sideways. When it stood back up and met my gaze, something clicked. It became totally tame after that. I promised good food if it behaved. Maybe even a partner. Act up, and it loses privileges. I swear it understood my warning, staring at the axe near its belly in total, absolute silence. I munched some of the scout's dried snacks, loaded his unconscious body onto the saddle, and headed home. On the trek down, I found the sweet potato patch Wang Fei had stumbled upon earlier. I dug up every single piece and stacked them on the horse. The poor beast huffed, but definitely dared not complain. Halfway down, the scout woke up cursing. We both know demanding his release was useless. I asked about his crew and their toxic water plans. He just spat and called me delusional, so I delivered a swift punch, knocking him right out again. When I finally stepped out of the woods, Wang Chongshan was busy fixing boar damage with a dozen tired workers. They all just stopped and stared. A real horse was something nobody in this village ever owned. They were strictly military property. Then they spotted the tied-up man wearing sheepskin boots. The wild whispering erupted almost instantly. A captured enemy spy was a massive deal. Hearing the chatter, Wang Chongshan completely snapped. But pure jealousy was eating him alive. The horse, the spy bounty, the boar meat, the hunting. All these massive wins just kept falling into my lap while his own world was totally crumbling. He was also still furious about his brother sleeping with his own wife. He totally knew I orchestrated that. I tricked Wang Shangguan into her bedroom to completely dodge the situation myself. Since then, the chief dragged his brother to the fields every single day just to keep them apart, but could not say anything publicly. Family shame stays hidden. All that explosive anger finally boiled over. He marched right up to me and totally blocked my path, screaming that I was a curse. I calmly stopped the horse and smiled. How exactly? He unloaded everything. My parents' passing was my fault. The famine? My fault. Hunting somehow caused the boars to ruin his fields. Even Wang Fei passing away was my fault for setting a terrible example. As his ultimate accusation, I somehow corrupted his innocent little brother into ruining his marriage, bringing huge shame to the Wang family. I just stood there, letting him rant. I wanted to see this play out. Spit was literally flying everywhere. So what do you and I make of this? He poked my nose, called me a literal curse, and blamed me for absolutely everything. Let's uncover his ultimate trump card together. The chief officially banished our hero from Saiwa village. Effective right now. Pack up and leave. He just laughed. You really want him gone? Sounds like you are handing over your position. That drove the chief absolutely wild. The chief was absolutely certain our guy was secretly plotting to steal his position all along. In his crazy mind, the hero tricked the brother into seeing his wife to ruin the Wang family reputation and grab power. But honestly, the real truth was way simpler than that. When the brother confessed under pressure, Wang Chongqing beat his wife mercilessly and locked her away entirely. He planned a divorce before the scandal spread. In his head, he had brilliantly uncovered the hero's epic master plan just in time. Losing all his patience, he shoved the chief aside. The guy fell back into the rice paddy, screaming about saving the hero once, calling him totally ungrateful, shouting that he was the absolute law here. Our guy just reached back and casually pulled out his axe. Let the steel catch the light. The second their eyes met, his fake courage totally vanished. He scrambled away in pure terror, screaming loudly for help. He was tripping, crawling, and running. Our hero watched him flee and made a firm choice. These Wang brothers were a serious problem needing fixing. But not today. Wang Chongqing was still a government official, and taking him out without a solid reason would bring the law knocking. But his brother Wang Shangguan was totally different. That guy had zero protection. If he crossed the line again, his life was over. Now pay attention here, because behind his back, those brothers were already cooking up something truly awful. Wang Chongshuan, arm still bandaged from having his wrist crushed, whispered an evil plan to his brother. They knew our guy had to leave for the county town to collect the bounty on the captured barbarian. Once he left, they would break in, brutally hurt both sisters, and burn the whole place to the ground. They would use their workers as alibis. Zero evidence, and absolutely no witnesses. Wang Chongqing agreed immediately, shaking hands on it. Our hero knew absolutely nothing about this, walking home feeling great about his successful day. Back home, Wang Qing tidied the yard while Qinger made warm porridge. They had help from Hangyang, a very sweet older woman from the village. Hangyang was not a local. She escaped famine years ago, finally settling down right at the mountain base. She lost both sons to the military draft and her only daughter during childbirth. With no kids left, she secretly grew incredibly fond of his two beautiful wives. Back when the old Lu phone was hurting them so badly they could barely move, Hangyang was the one sneaking over. She cared for them and bravely smuggled in extra food. She probably saved Wang Qing during that terrible food poisoning incident. He was super grateful for her, as long as she kept offering her kind help. His wives had someone genuinely trustworthy watching their backs. He greeted her warmly, tied his horse outside, and calmly walked in. Wang Qing dropped everything and hurried right over to him, her eyes shining with pure love. Both Qinger and Wang Qing actually had something to ask him. They explained that Hangyang's husband broke his leg gathering firewood. The poor older couple had actually gone 2 entire days with absolutely no food. The sweet sisters wanted to gift them some grain, repaying all those times Hangyang secretly cared for them when the past him was being so incredibly cruel. They watched him so nervously, big bright eyes waiting for permission. You see it too, right? Them asking showed how much real trust had grown between them. He casually waved it off. You are my wives, handle it yourselves. No need to ask me over something that small. They almost burst into happy tears. Such a tiny freedom, but to them, it was everything. When Hangyang spotted the tied-up barbarian outside, she screamed in pure panic, trying to drag the girls away. He quickly calmed her down, explaining the county bounty, 50 taels for a live capture. Then she spotted the horse and got serious. Keeping a military horse was a massive crime, punishable by the ultimate penalty. He claimed it was just a wild mountain horse he tamed. She completely saw through it, but she had a genius idea. She offered to hide the saddle, bridle, and anything else marking it as a military horse, over at her own house. No evidence at his place meant no conviction. Wang Qing saw through Hangyang's true motive immediately. By holding all that evidence, the old woman created smart insurance for herself. If he ever turned evil again, she had leverage. If he stayed good, she proved her strong loyalty, binding their fates completely together. Either way, she won big time. It was incredibly clever. He fully respected that hustle. He agreed without arguing, moving the massive horse to the backyard hillside, where absolutely nobody could spot it easily. It was already way too late to travel to the county town today. So, he secured the prisoner, hid the sweet potatoes, and sat down for a lovely dinner with his wives. Boiled wild boar and fresh vegetable porridge. He literally could not stop staring while they ate. The adorable way Qinger happily enjoyed every single bite of meat. The way Wang Qing looked so incredibly peaceful as she leaned gently over her bowl. Caught staring, they blushed red. Trust me, you and I will love what's next. Stick with me here. I told them to eat up. They'd need huge energy tonight. Waning shocked me with a cheeky comeback. Blushing entirely red. Absolutely stunned, she'd said it. This elegant, quiet girl was finally loosening up. After dinner, asked them to boil a giant pot of water. They had zero clue why, but cheerfully agreed. Our only big container was a simple wooden tub the local carpenter built for preparing hunted game. With both sweet sisters squeezed inside, it was incredibly cramped, but it worked perfectly. I made a quick mental note to buy a massive bathing tub tomorrow. One absolutely spacious enough to fit all 3 of us. Once done washing, Waning stood shyly at the bedroom doorway. Clutching her clothes, completely half drenched, she whispered softly, "Husband, I am ready." I had epic plans tonight requiring some expert teaching. My cheerful wives were incredibly eager students, ready for wonderful things they'd never even imagined. Tonight's amazing lesson was overdue. That night was absolutely unforgettable. I taught both sweet sisters marvelous things they never dreamed possible. Wing felt shy initially, but followed my lead. Chinger totally needed zero convincing. By the time I felt fully satisfied, both lovely girls were completely exhausted. Before sunrise, I headed out, securely tying the hulking barbarian to my ox cart. I told Wonking to have Huang Xin Yangar them while I was away, but the stubborn sisters completely refused having any male guards around. Meanwhile, the sneaky prisoner faked his sleep, desperately waiting for the perfect chance to strike as our cart turned a sharp corner. I broke his arm for that stunt. Zero tricks after that. At the city gate, everything completely shifted. Past trips were super easy, a fast check entering, and absolutely breezy exiting. Now watch closely the moment guards spotted the barbarian. They drew weapons and swarmed. After explaining myself, they escorted me straight to the county magistrate's grand office. Mu Zhaoyang rushed over, grinning with admiration. He was completely stunned. I'd captured a barbarian scout alive. He cheerfully walked me through the process. Hand the captive to the jailer, get a receipt, and collect my shiny bounty. 50 taels weigh more silver than he'd earn in 3 whole years as a regular constable. I playfully flattered him, claiming his awesome martial skills could easily crush several barbarian scouts at once. He totally ate it up, cheerfully waving his hands with fake modesty. Honestly, his fighting skills were incredibly average, but keeping my brother-in-law perfectly happy was easily worth a few nice compliments. The dungeon doors creaked open, revealing the imposing county jailer, Chen Du. The man was absolutely massive. I literally craned my neck just to meet his fierce gaze. Built like a sheer mountain of pure muscle, he was twice my size, rocking a massive saber and incredibly sharp tiger eyes. He worked as a humble butcher before getting drafted onto the brutal battlefield. He fought like an absolute beast, scoring crazy victories, and nearly perished from his injuries. Surviving by pure miracle, they awarded him this intimidating post. Rumor says he'd be a top general without those old injuries. Unbelievably, he hoisted the hefty barbarian off my cart one-handed, exactly like snatching a tiny chicken. He confirmed the catch. A fierce northern barbarian, zero question. Then those intense tiger eyes locked onto mine. You realize betraying our grand empire brings the absolute, ultimate penalty, right? You and I know this. In Yuzhou, he threatened 1,000 cuts, testing if I'd crack, probably scheming to pocket my hard-earned bounty all for himself. I met his intimidating glare without blinking once. Are you implying I didn't capture this guy, or that I lacked the skills? Or are you seriously calling me an enemy spy? Right behind me, Musha Yang nearly passed out, sweating absolute buckets. Yeah, I basically just doomed myself by fiercely talking back to the absolute most dangerous powerhouse in this entire county. Shinyu could easily crush anyone here in a brawl. Nobody dared challenge him, but I've perfectly read mighty guys like him my whole career. Warriors respect absolute courage. They despise groveling. Shun. Dinu stared at me for a long moment. Then, instead of fury, genuine surprise flickered across his face. Shun Dainu was fully convinced nobody could ever withstand his overwhelming aura. Every single constable around here walked with their heads bowed low, but I didn't even flinch, and that completely baffled the giant. Choosing to test my strength, he loudly summoned head constable Wang Bi, too, fiercely declaring, "If you can't beat this guy in combat, there's absolutely zero chance you took down a barbarian scout. No proof, no bounty." I almost laughed out loud. I didn't come for the cash. I brought the captive so they could interrogate him and gather crucial intel to save innocent lives. I told Shinjinu to keep his silver. I completely refused to perform like a trained circus animal to prove my worth. That completely threw him off. He fully expected me to beg or bluster. Instead, I walked away from 50 taels like it was just spare pocket change. He couldn't figure me out. The constable finally arrived, medium build, scarred brow, and serious swagger in his confident step. He snatched a punishment stick off the wall and suddenly flicked it at me. I casually caught it mid-air with one hand. That definitely got his full attention. Shun Dainyu whispered to his guy, "Don't hold back, but leave him breathing." We intensely circled each other. The constable struck first with a brutal overhead swing. I sidestepped, firmly blocked, then swept low. He stumbled back, instantly losing his initiative. Here's where we leave it. He switched techniques, thrusting his staff, then reversing into a smash. Stick with me here. The sudden shift almost caught me, but his energy completely drained. I didn't even dodge, just braced my stick and shoved back. His weapon smacked his face. One more hit, and he was out cold on the floor. The whole fight lasted seconds. The room went dead silent. Every single guard stepped backwards. Shun Yu slowly stood, eyes shining. He admitted he was wrong, amazed to find a real powerhouse like me in this tiny village. Then he offered me a job, join the county office, work under him. With my skills, he promised, I would be absolutely invaluable. Mu Zhaoyang almost tripped over his own feet, rushing over, begging me to accept. To him, this was the ultimate golden opportunity. A government spot, steady pay, huge status. He had spent serious cash and used his father's connections just to secure his own position. Here it was, handed to me completely free, but I turned it down flat. I'm just a cheerful village hunter. I don't have that crazy ambition. Chen Yinu's face instantly dropped. Nobody ever refused his personal invite. Mu Zhaoliang looked ready to totally strangle me. He started apologizing to Chun Deningu, calling me a clueless idiot blinded by village life. But I knew exactly what I really wanted. A guard's salary couldn't match my epic hunting trips. Even Chun Dainyu's own high rank didn't tempt me at all. I had 2 beautiful wives, land to farm, a village to build, and epic plans bigger than any county office could ever hold. Why trade that freedom to take orders? Mia Yang was furious and literally kicked my leg. He said this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. A government job, moving cityward, giving his sisters a better life. I gently told him, everyone walks their own unique path, so stop pushing. Now watch closely, things get crazy. A clerk whispered to Chun Dianu that the magistrate's nephew was arriving to take the job. The message? Clear. Even if I accepted, the spot was promised to someone with connections. Shindu cursed the politics, but had absolutely no choice. He signed my papers with a respectful nod and told me to grab my reward. I really liked the guy. Rough, honest, and truly powerful. He is the exact kind of warrior I want under my command someday. If I build something epic, I filed him in my memory, taking my 50 taels. On the long road home, I quickly spotted Tian La standing at the crossroads looking totally panicked. Something happened at your house, he yelled. My heart completely froze. I jumped off the cart and sprinted home. The yard was totally wrecked. Heng Yang lay on the ground, her face badly bruised and hair wild. My 2 wives crouched beside her, shaking with absolute terror. Tied up in the corner, heavily bruised and gagged, was Wang Shongguan. Everything made sense instantly. We both knew this was coming, right? The second I left for town, Wang Shongguan broke in, trying to drag the sweet sisters away. Heng Yang fought him with all her might. An older woman against a grown man, taking a really brutal hit from a wooden stick just to protect them. Tian Lao Ba and his guys arrived perfectly on time delivering wood, heard the massive commotion, and fully overpowered Wang Shanhuan. My sweet wives threw themselves into my arms, sobbing. Their wrists were raw from painful rope burns. Their hands were scraped. If Sen wasn't there, or if those men arrived even a few minutes later, I truly couldn't bear to think about it. I quickly checked Senral, red marks on her mouth, pale face, and highly possible internal injuries. I handed Tian Lao but 2 silver taels, telling him to rush her straight to the doctor in the very next village immediately. He tried to refuse the large sum. I didn't let him finish his sentence. Then I picked up that terrible wooden stick right off the dirt, the exact same one used for mixing cattle feed. I gently told the sisters to go inside. They definitely didn't need to witness what happened next. Wang Shangguan saw me coming, going completely insane with panic. He writhed on the ground like a worm, desperately trying to crawl away. Muffled, terrified, screams leaked through the rag stuffed in his mouth. He completely lost it. A pathetic trail followed him across the dirt. I stepped heavily on his back, pinning him flat. First strike, the stick cracked loudly across his skull. Impact exploded outward. Second strike, he went completely limp, totally senseless, like a smashed gourd. But that was way too easy. You think I'd let you off that fast? I aimed the stick right between his legs and brought it down with absolutely everything I had. A loud crunch echoed across the yard. Wang Chongguan's scream cut through the entire village when the stick landed directly between his legs. He writhed on the ground, howling in pure agony. I looked at the blue sky, then brought the stick down onto his skull. The strike was absolutely devastating. You brought this on yourself. Touch my women, and this happens. Miraculously, he was actually still breathing. His expression was ruined. I calmly asked him which hand he'd used to tie my wives with that rope. Then I grabbed the axe off my belt and chopped it off. He shrieked again. I took the other hand too. Then his vision, removing the very eyes that dared to gaze at my wives. Then both legs, the ones that walked into my yard. By the time his screaming stopped, there wasn't much left of him at all. What do you and I learn here? An hour later, Wang Shangguan was propped against the village river tree for absolutely everyone to see. Stick with me. We've got limbs and branches and empty eyes staring at nothing. A limbless, kneeling form looked like a monster's confession. Hearing this, Wang Chongqing rushed over immediately. One glance at his brother's remains, and he passed out. The men couldn't abandon their unconscious boss. They squeezed his pressure points super hard until he finally snapped back awake. Staring at the remains, he tearfully vowed payback. Meanwhile, I tidied my yard and entered. The sisters sat completely calm. After her recent struggles, Weining had become basically unbreakable. Qinger was also getting tougher. They totally shook off the scare. I revealed 2 hidden paper packages. Town-bought roast chickens. Their eyes sparkled instantly. They hadn't tasted this since living with their parents. During dinner, Weining softly asked if they were holding me back. Feeling weak, they always needed saving. I hugged them tight with the absolute truth. Anyone harming them was instantly my enemy. Simple as that. Dealing with Wang Shangguan wasn't merely payback. It was a massive warning to the whole village. Now pay attention here. Harm my family, and your ultimate end will be the kindest part. Qinger asked if our future kids would be super strong. I laughed, promising they'd be stunning like us. I'd handle combat training. The girls would teach reading. Then I carried them straight to bed. Despite the daylight, their weak protests faded fast. After a passionate hour, we relaxed together in the soft, fading twilight. Weining worried about Wang Chongqing reporting his brother's demise to the local guards. I simply told her to relax. Nobody could prove my involvement. Besides, overwhelming evidence and witnesses clearly showed Wang Shangguan illegally invaded and attacked our home. Going to the authorities meant Chongqing would be charged as an accomplice, completely losing his precious village chief position forever. He was smart enough to stay quiet. Nothing gets reported. This takedown wasn't some random impulse. Pure strategy, a massive warning, and step 1 in my epic master plan to slowly conquer the entire village's land. This place would be mine. Shangguan was a plague. While he held power, my grand plans faced endless, annoying resistance. Those workers relying on him for food could turn on me anytime. He absolutely had to go, just not yet. Next morning started yard exercises. 400 push-ups just to warm up. My classic brutal mercenary routine. Suddenly, Diane, Hong, Da, and Li Long appeared, looking totally battered as usual. Li Long was limping hard. These reckless idiots sneaked back into the dangerous mountains. You and I know this gets wild. Seeking payback for Fei, they found a terrifying white brow tiger. It was heavily injured, covered in huge slashes, likely knife strikes. They fought it, and barely escaped. They only survived by climbing trees. Fortunately, they somehow spotted the beast's hidden den. I scolded them harshly, confiscating their bows. They'd only get them back after crafting 20 perfect arrows for my inspection. They were totally crushed, but agreed. Seeking payback shows loyalty, but charging in unprepared is an instant loss. Those tiger slashes totally match the fallen barbarian scouts I found earlier. The timeline matched perfectly. The barbarians fought the beast, losing 2 guys and a horse, severely wounding it. Dragging prey home meant one thing: cubs. Tigers usually eat their catches immediately. Hauling food home clearly means hungry babies. I rushed uphill before noon, needing to return by dark. Within an hour, I located the den. Crimson trails and drag marks revealed a dark cave. Faint, adorable cries echoed from the shadows inside. I stayed cautious, gathering branches and sticky pine resin, crafted solid torches, kept a spare, and loaded my crossbow. Then I entered. That smell hit hard. Crimson stains, then awful rot, worsening deep inside. Reaching a drop-off, I peeked into the main chamber. The majestic tiger lay on grass, barely breathing. Its battered body was completely stained red from deep wounds. Sensing me, it tried growling but couldn't stand. It was done. Dropping down, saw the barbarian's fallen horse reeking. And right beside it, 2 tiny 3-month-old cubs were tearing at the meat, struggling with small teeth. An epic idea hit me immediately. Raised properly, these little guys would become the ultimate guard beasts. Trust me, you'll love this. I'll tame these tigers and ride them into epic battles. Just that sight alone would send enemy mounts into pure panic. Imagine charging into battle against northern invaders on a massive tiger. You and I both know the impact would be massive. We are raising tigers. The whole idea had me smiling like crazy. But the mother tiger spotted me reaching for her little cubs and roared fiercely. Somehow she found the strength to stand up, wounds covering her completely, legs shaking wildly, eyes locked on mine. I aimed the crossbow right at her head, but she collapsed after just a few seconds. That was pure willpower, nothing else. I slowly lowered the weapon. This beast had taken down 2 scouts and gave me a prisoner and a steed. She definitely earned my respect. I told her I would never harm her. She was fading anyway, and her cubs could not survive alone here. I offered a deal. Let me take them, and I will raise them well. She growled once, so I took it as agreement. Then she weakly reached toward the fallen horse, looking back at her little cubs. She worried they would go hungry. That truly hit me harder than expected. Even wild beasts become totally selfless as mothers. It also forced me to start thinking practically. Tigers devour enormous amounts of meat. As they grow up, feeding them becomes a massive problem. I could never hunt enough to sustain 2 adult tigers alongside everything else. So, I made exactly one more important request. I explained I must sell her parts after she passed away. The meat, bones, and organs would fund feeding her beloved children. But I promised to keep her beautiful hide as a mark of true respect. Watch closely here, guys. She stared with such complex emotion, then growled one final time. I sat right beside her and waited patiently. Half an hour later she passed quietly. I felt immense respect for this creature, dragging heavy prey home on ruined legs just to feed her young one last time. I quickly built a wooden sled outside the cave and loaded her 400 gene frame, plus another 200 gene of usable horse meat. The 2 tiny cubs were maybe 3 months old, clumsily chewing on little scraps. They stayed perfectly calm when I placed them on the sled. I covered them with broad leaves, so absolutely nobody in the village would spot what I carried. It was totally dark when I finally got home. The lovely sisters came running out like cheerful butterflies, each grabbing a side of the sled. I stayed completely quiet about the cubs on purpose. When Waning pulled back the leaves and spotted 2 round furry heads staring up, she shrieked and immediately jumped backward. Chinger let out a shriek too. Then they saw my grin and realized everything. You really could have warned us. Chinger scolded playfully, dusting her clothes, but pure curiosity quickly conquered fear. Sister, they are actually super cute. Cute until they bite, Waning shot back. The poor cubs were totally dazed from the bumpy ride, just blinking their dark little eyes at the 2 women. I said we would keep them inside for now. They were small enough to wander inside safely. If they misbehave, smack them. The sweet sisters stared at me like I was insane. Hit a tiger? I demonstrated, grabbing one cub by the scruff and lifting it. The little beast went totally wild, claws slashing, tiny fangs completely bared. I tapped it once, not too hard. It calmed down a bit, but still snarled. Second tap. It went completely calm and docile, dangling in my hand without a single sound. Lesson learned. Chinger snatched the cub away immediately, pressing its fuzzy body against her cheek. Do not worry, little one. We will not let him bully you. Waning grabbed the other one just as fast. Both women hurried inside, sweetly cooing at the cubs like tiny kittens. Shooting me? Seriously dirty looks over their shoulders. I just shook my head, laughing. Let that sink in for a second. Cubs, livestock, lovely wives, and tons of silver. Pretty incredible for a lost soul taking over someone else's life, right? Women and their pets. The sweet sisters were already treating those fierce cubs like babies. I built a simple pen indoors. Then I spent half the night carefully preparing the magnificent beast by lamplight. The hide was too valuable. In this era, tiger skin meant serious status. I would use it as a grand bed cover, warm and impressive. I organized my scattered silver into a chest under the bed. Tomorrow, I would collect land deeds from every family around the village and travel to the county, selling the meat and bones while redeeming every single pawn plot of land I possibly could. That night, the three of us celebrated until I could not move. The sisters were getting skilled, lasting longer, and learning new things. Way too skilled, actually. I did not wake up until the sun poured through the window. The cubs had already been fed. The funny thing was, they bonded instantly, with the sisters, happily snuggling up to them, perfectly gentle. The moment they saw me, they froze and went completely quiet. Smart little animals. They knew who disciplined and who cuddled. I named them. The female had bright white stripes. Bye-bye. The male was super hot-tempered. Hawa. After a great breakfast, I went door to door through the village, buying up pawn tickets. Poor families had been selling their land to survive for years. 1 or 2 taels an acre gone forever. But what do you and I do? We buy their tickets at full price to save the day. Stick around for the next chapter. Let us dive into this wild ride. In one morning, he grabbed over 30 land tickets, mostly scoring rough hillside plots that badly needed proper modern irrigation. But massive quantity meant serious potential. Our clever guy was already plotting how to brilliantly use the village river for epic water systems. Then he stumbled upon 10 incredible acres of prime riverfront land. It was totally overgrown, but undeniably super fertile. Those wild weeds alone grew incredibly tall. An 80-year-old hermit owned it, chilling alone on a quiet hilltop. That greedy guy Wang Chong tried stealing this exact land for years, but completely failed every single time. Wang Chong merely waited for the elder to pass away. Our hero smartly decided to visit him right now, before that villain could finally make his move. Beautiful autumn chrysanthemums lined the entire peaceful path going up. Up top sat a cute courtyard packed with bright flowers and drying herbs. The cheerful grandpa just sipped nice tea, humming a happy tune. Before our guy even entered, the grandpa spoke. Retiring in Saiwa village was the greatest choice I have ever made. Do you not totally agree? He completely froze. Was the elder actually speaking to him? Without even looking, the grandpa continued. Years ago, I happily predicted Yua would bring someone extraordinary, an amazing hero to shake the heavens. And here, you finally are. About 24, right? Our hero slowly walked inside, absolutely amazed. He barely knew his own exact age in this new body, but that wild guess perfectly matched his inherited memories. He never really believed in magical fortune-telling. Yet this cheerful elder was known everywhere as an epic feng shui master. Even folks from the busy town came seeking his wisdom. Rumors claimed he left a legendary divination family to peacefully hide away. Maybe there was something way more magical to this charming elder than just silly superstition. He knew our hero was coming, guessed his age, and predicted someone changing Yojo forever. Whether it was pure magical insight or just clever observation, our guy eagerly wanted to hear more. Amazingly, the elder already knew exactly who he was. A nice village widow mentioned him that same morning, so the elder cast a cool divination predicting this exact visit. Skipping small talk, the elder pointed at a fancy box by the door and cheerfully said to grab it. Inside rested precious property deeds for all his rich holdings, including those 10 prime river acres. He also found a mysterious silk pouch hiding something solid inside. Now watch closely, because the wise elder quickly stopped him. He found it years ago, having no clue what it was, just that it could mysteriously save a life. He strictly warned to never open it unless facing total ruin. His single request was that when he eventually passed away, our hero would peacefully bury him facing northwest. No fancy name on the tombstone, just a simple rock. Our hero bowed deeply, making a sweet promise to bring this wonderful elder warm meals every single day. The grandpa waved him off casually and shuffled inside for a cozy nap. Such a mysterious, fascinating man. But our hero secured the land and swore to keep his promise. He happily spent the morning grabbing even more valuable pawn tickets around the village, loaded his cart with premium tiger meat, and confidently headed toward the bustling county town. In total, he held over 40 tickets for roughly 100 acres. Combined with the elder's beautiful riverfront property, this instantly made him the second biggest land boss in Saiwa village, right behind Wang Chong. He reached the only pawn shop around, a massive, greedy establishment that had been ruthlessly scamming innocent, hardworking farmers for many long generations. The grumpy clerk recognized him from before and snobbishly looked down. However, the shop rules were still absolute rules. Customers are absolute kings. He playfully tested the waters with one tiny ticket, half an acre previously pawned for 700 coins. The clerk's wooden abacus clattered, returning with a greedy smile, 1 tael and 8 silver coins, way more than double the original amount. Compound interest. The clerk cheered happily. Standard policy. Our hero quickly calculated everything mentally. Redeeming all 100 acres cost 3 to 500 taels. Pure robbery. Luckily, he was using easy gambling house silver anyway. You and I love a flex. He confidently slapped every ticket down. Calculate these. I am redeeming every single one today. The clerk's face quickly cycled through pure shock, panic, then coldness. The boss ordered them to forcefully block huge redemptions. Unredeemed land permanently became the greedy shop's property, serving as their biggest secret profit source. The angry clerk snatched the papers, ripping that entire precious stack into tiny shreds in one swift motion. He literally could not believe it. The wooden counter was way too high to block him. What tickets? He sneered, stepping back. You never gave me anything. This is a totally respectable shop. Causing a massive scene here will not end well for you. Before our guy could even react, the clerk screamed for backup. 7 burly guards with wooden clubs stormed out, completely surrounding our hero. He offered one final chance. Pay up, hand over the deeds, and everybody gets to walk away perfectly happy. The fool just laughed, called him a pathetic nobody, and commanded his goons to attack. Extremely bad decision. Our hero drew his axe, swiftly dodged the first swing, cleanly disarmed a guard, snatched his stick, and sent the remaining thugs flying in seconds. Trust me, you and I want to see the outside crowd react when he proudly plants his stick and loudly reveals everything. Stick with me here. You're about to see pure chaos unfold. After the shady clerk ripped my tickets, I asked the crowd one very simple question. How many of you got scammed here? The floodgates shattered. One guy lost 3 acres he was promised he could easily buy back. Another grandfather's precious heirloom box was sold before the deadline. A woman's sick mother's bracelets, pawned to feed her hungry kids, were flipped to a rich guy's girlfriend within weeks. I totally fueled the fire. Are we just going to let them rob us? We have hands. We have feet. What are we waiting for? Go in and take back what's ours. I vaulted the counter with my stick, smashed the barrier, grabbed that shady clerk, made him spill exactly where the land deeds were hidden. and smoothly took him completely out of the picture. He was the only guy who could identify me. With him handled, nothing connected me to this dramatic mess. To pull the angry crowd inside, I happily tossed fistfuls of loose silver right out into the busy street. Watch closely now. People swarmed in like a wild flood, battling over coins. Meanwhile, I slipped back, cracked the hidden vault, and grabbed every single land deed belonging to Saiwa village. The angry shop owner came frantically sprinting from the back rooms, loudly screaming. He charged into the wild stampede and got completely trampled. Game over. When the guards finally arrived, led by that same Wang Bu I had flattened days earlier, the crowd was completely gone. Nobody spoke. Everyone got something awesome, and nobody wanted to return it. The shop workers were either unconscious or just way too terrified to talk. The authorities sealed the building, starting a totally pointless investigation that went nowhere. I just watched it all unfold from across the street, happily sipping my warm tea. Once everything settled, I confidently took the tiger bones to a pharmacy. The owner confirmed they were authentic and happily bought one bone at a premium, but said the rest was simply too much for his small shop. He totally suggested selling them in Tanyang City, a massive trading hub further up the road toward the bustling provincial capital. That long journey was incredibly risky. Bandits, conflict areas, total uncertainty. The pharmacist handed me an intro letter and pointed me right toward the only escort agency in the county, the legendary escort service, based down in the south of town. They had deep connections along the route and a flawless track record. 0 shipments lost. If anyone could safely get me and my goods to Tanyang City, it was them. This top-tier escort agency was completely impressive. A massive gate, horses everywhere, and dozens of fierce fighters training in perfect formation. I honestly felt so envious. With a cavalry unit exactly like that, I'd be absolutely unstoppable. The guards at the gate quickly perked up. Business had totally dried up ever since the fierce border conflicts completely cut off those western routes. A paying customer was a true blessing. I told them I needed to ship something highly valuable, discussing details only with their boss. When I finally revealed the epic tiger bones, their eyes almost popped out. They instantly knew this shipment was worth thousands of taels and quickly hustled me inside. I know exactly what you're thinking. And yeah, she stopped me completely cold. Tall, athletic, drilling fighters with a long spear, rocking a purple combat outfit that hid absolutely nothing. She moved like pure water with that spear, fluid, precise, unstoppable. Her face was beautifully sun-kissed from years traveling. Sharp features, clear, incredibly fierce eyes. 0 makeup needed. The kind of captivating beauty that just hits you like a solid punch. She caught me staring and didn't like it. Without warning, she aggressively thrust her spear straight toward my face. The sharp tip stopped just 1 single centimeter right between my eyes. I didn't flinch or blink, just smiled. Some nerve, she said coldly, then realized I was a client. Getting super flustered while trying to recover her tough composure. Seeing the legendary tiger skeleton on my card, she instantly launched an intense interrogation. What weapon did I use? Where did I find it? How long was the epic hunt? She obviously didn't believe someone my age could actually solo a massive tiger. Her own escort team of a dozen grown men had completely failed to capture one 2 years ago. I simply told her I was here for business, not an interview. Getting furious, she blocked my path, stubbornly claiming she needed to verify these goods weren't actually stolen. This girl looked stunning, but her logic was totally missing in action. She was honestly the most stubborn, overly suspicious person I'd ever met since arriving in this new world. A frantic guard pulled her aside, desperately trying to calm her down, but she refused to drop it. Suddenly, a commanding voice cut right through the argument. How dare you be so rude to a guest? A distinguished, middle-aged man strode out from the hall. Square jaw, dark mustache, carrying the undeniable aura of someone who spent decades protecting precious cargo, straight through dangerous bandit territory. This was Wu Sanong, the legendary chief escort. Beside him stood a thin, slightly hunched man, with incredibly sharp, intelligent eyes. Their genius strategist, Master G. Wu Sanong apologized for his daughter's behavior and properly introduced himself. When I explained the shipment was a complete tiger skeleton, those two men exchanged a look of pure, barely contained excitement. Trust me, a full set of tiger bones is that epic, once-in-a-lifetime job we all dream about. Let's dive right into this insane setup. Wu Sanong promised connections with every single medicine house in Tanyang City for top prices. But first, we handled his commission. We settled those terms extremely fast. Honestly, Wu Sanong was an absolute professional. He completely understood that pushing any client for details about where their goods came from was just bad business. Take the job, charge up, deliver results. While the strategist Master G appraised those tiger bones, Wu Sanong's furious daughter stormed right back inside. Before she could even speak, her dad waved her off and quickly apologized to me for her wild behavior. I completely failed to resist. I caught her eye and gave her a perfectly deliberate, totally cocky stare. She practically exploded, angrily stomping her feet and fuming. I just turned my back toward the appraisal, and she completely snapped. Her whip flew out of nowhere, fast as lightning, striking incredibly hard. I fully expected it. A fiery girl like her definitely wouldn't hold back when provoked. I calmly flicked my axe off my belt and sent it spinning fast. It caught her whip mid-air, wrapped tightly around it, and pinned the whole thing to a massive wooden pillar. The weapon ripped clean from her hand. Total silence hit the courtyard. Wu Sanong's jaw dropped. His stunned daughter just stood there staring at her empty palm. Every single fighter in the yard had just watched me disarm their absolute best with one quick throw. Now watch closely. She said something that shocked the whole yard, declaring a martial arts marriage contest. Right there, she wanted to fight for the right to marry me. Wu Sanong nearly had a stroke. He desperately tried talking her down, shouting I was just an already married nobody farmer. She'd be a third wife at best. He secretly planned for her to marry the county magistrate's son. Being 18 and still unmarried cost her family a massive fortune in legal fines. Plus, she had rejected every single suitor her father ever picked. She did not care about any of it. Third wife? Fine. A farmer? After seeing my skills, she knew a guy like me wouldn't stay unknown forever. She desperately wanted someone who could truly match her, and nobody in this entire county came close until today. Master G watched this whole scene with barely hidden amusement. Excuse me, he asked me politely. Already married with 2 wives? I nodded. Wu Sanong sees that immediately. See, you would be third. Think about our family's entire reputation. Third is fine, she shot back without even blinking. What matters is the man, not the number. Or are you worried I cannot give him sons? I had to give her major credit. This girl had fire, brains, and zero concern for silly conventions. I honestly liked her more with every word she spoke. Wu Sanong kept sputtering, loudly blaming his wife for spoiling her. The daughter ignored him completely, announced she was going to fetch the family's epic treasured bow, and fiercely laid down the challenge. If I could draw it, she would fight me. Her father apparently promised years ago that any man pulling that bow would easily earn his daughter's hand. She stopped at the doorway and looked straight at me. Hey, do not disappoint me. Disappointed? I laughed. Who said I agreed to marry you? Don't flatter yourself. That stopped her cold. We both felt that awkward silence. Wu Sanong almost choked, but she recovered fast. What? Am I not pretty enough? She boldly thrust her chest forward, striking an intense pose. Are these not big enough? Is this not round enough? Wu Sanong's face turned completely gray like iron. Other men's daughters were modest and refined. His was basically selling herself on a street corner. I looked her over completely honestly. She was absolutely stunning. Sharp features, explosive figure, easily as beautiful as my wives back home. Pretty sure. And yes, impressively large. But what good is all that? I am no puppet you can easily bully into marriage. And I do not keep decorations around me. Decoration? She was fuming. I can fight. I can read. I can do anything. Plus, marrying me brings huge benefits you cannot imagine. Like what? Marry me, and the entire escort agency is yours." Wu Sanong looked like he was having a total seizure. His wild daughter was giving away his life's work before she even left the house. Not exactly a warm jacket, more like a leaky vest. But I thought about it. Seriously, a fighter wife meant my family would be totally protected when I wasn't home. A wife who came with an escort agency. Dozens of experienced fighters with deep connections across the entire region. That was an epic strategic asset. Money couldn't easily buy. Fine, go get the bow. She bounced away like a happy rabbit. Wu Sanong glared at me with intense, undisguised hostility. Meanwhile, Master J finished up his appraisal. The tiger bones were high quality, worth at least 3,000 taels. Though the missing skin and one single claw reduced the value slightly, he quoted a 10% commission, 300 taels. That stung, but then he added something interesting. If I could draw the family bow, the fee dropped to 100. If I beat the daughter in combat, completely free. The old fox was testing me. If I couldn't draw the bow, my goods were probably stolen. And that higher fee easily covered all their risk. I told him, pay 300 regardless. The extra 200 could count as a bride price. That immediately got Wu Sanong's attention. Think about how wild that is. The empire's population crisis had eliminated that custom entirely. Stick with me here, you are about to see him earn major respect. Giving 200 taels was insane generosity. After that, the man looked at him differently, not warmly, but genuinely impressed. His cheerful daughter returned, carrying an ornate black wooden case. Inside sat a magnificent bow, dark red, gleaming with fresh oil, exquisitely crafted. Wu Sanong introduced it. The Wavebreaker, a prized family heirloom, featuring a mulberry wood core layered wild ox horn, and wrapped in deer sinew. 5 stone draw weight, 500 paces of range. 5 stones was absolute madness. Most battlefield bows maxed out at just 3. This crazy thing was a training tool meant to build superhuman strength, not an actual weapon. One draw would drain you completely. He picked it up, hooked 2 fingers, and pulled hard. The massive bow groaned and vibrated like struck solid metal. He got it halfway. The entire crowd held their breath. Wu Sanong watched, eyes narrowed. His daughter practically bounced on her toes. He strained against 2 stones. The bow barely moved further. In his old body, total child's play. But this malnourished frame, even after weeks of great food and training, simply lacked that explosive raw power right now. Was this really his current limit? The elite escort fighter started whispering. 2 stones was still amazing. Way better than most guys there, but not enough. That girl's fiery temper would crush any weak husband. Anyway, Wu Sanong exhaled, clearly relieved. His daughter's smile completely vanished, looking confused and almost hurt. She was so sure he would win. Laughing with pure relief, Wu Sanong said nobody in the entire county could draw it, so he should not feel bad. He had trained for 20 years, and still could not pull a full draw. Our guy smiled. That first attempt was just brute force, testing his current raw limits. Drawing a legendary bow like that takes serious technique, not just pure muscle. The daughter tried goading him, playfully calling him a coward, asking if a girl scared him. Then she completely switched tactics. Grabbing his arm, she acted sweet, offering tea and rest before another try. But he did not need any rest at all. Now pay attention here. It is just a bow. He breathed deep and channeled everything. Not raw muscle, but pure focused force. The ancient bow groaned loudly. The string violently vibrated, bending perfectly to a full draw. Wu Sanong's smug smile froze completely, like it was carved in stone. Meanwhile, his daughter lit up like the bright sun. He lowered the string slowly and handed it back. Awesome weapon. What happens now? Wu Sanong was totally speechless, so she answered instead. The real showdown would not be today. When winter hit and rivers froze, she would host a massive public martial arts contest in Tony City. He had to show up and fight for her hand. He felt annoyed, wanting to settle this right now, but she stood firm. Putting the huge bow away, she tucked the case under her arm and practically skipped off, glowing with pure joy. "You had better come," she yelled back. "Do not break your promise." Master G patted his shoulder with an amused grin, leading him to sign the contract. They prepped 12 elite escorts, 5 fake wagons to hide the real cargo, and Wu Sunong himself was personally leading the convoy. The cheerful daughter begged to go, but they ordered her to guard the agency while the best fighters left town. He easily paid the deposit, left his contact info, and headed out. Wang walked him right to the street, totally reluctant to say goodbye. Right then, he bumped into Mu Zhaoyang, who looked like the sky was actually falling down. The crazy pawn shop raid finally reached the county magistrate. Turns out, that shop was the magistrate's personal property, managed by one of his greedy nephews. Now every single constable was on the case, and the magistrate wanted major payback. His stressed brother-in-law slumped onto the cart and just vented. 0 leads, and no witnesses wanted to talk. That entire mob got free silver, and absolutely nobody was snitching today. The mysterious ringleader vanished like a ghost. Worst of all, someone swiped the main account books, meaning they could not even figure out what got stolen. You guessed it, right? He was the culprit. The ledger sat safely hidden under his cushion. He deliberately took only the land deeds, pure paper documents impossible to trace, leaving all the shiny jewelry for the wild crowd. Gold leaves a trail. Deeds are just paper. Nobody could link them to the heist. But this little chat revealed a huge problem. He could not register those deeds yet. With the magistrate actively investigating, showing up with land titles from the wreck shop would be an instant game over for him. He would just wait until spring when the heat completely died down. He told Xiaolian to visit the sisters whenever he got some free time. He instantly perked up, asking a huge favor, some of his special deer tonic wine. He gave that classic look guys give when trying to impress their lovely new wives. He understood the assignment completely and promised to send some over. Back at home, he stashed the deeds and started planning his next big project, building a brick kiln. He picked a perfect wasteland spot near the mountain stream for hauling water, and that is where we leave it. Trust me, you want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to watch him build a literal empire from dirt. Digging down deep, opening a firing mouth below. The process was simple but backbreaking. Mix river mud with pure yellow clay. Dry it out. Sift stones. Soak it. Next, stomp it barefoot into thick paste. Shape those bricks. Load up the kiln. And fire it for 5 straight days without ever letting that flame die. With plenty of hands, one single batch took half a month. With barely any helpers, it would take a year. He needed 2 solid batches before the harsh winter froze the ground. Barely enough for basic essentials, but perfect for a super cozy heated sleeping platform. The house itself would feature sturdy timber frames and earth walls, perfect for surviving winter. By morning, Tian La gathered every able worker around. Men or women, nobody cared. 10 coins a day, plus free hot meals for everyone. Construction started immediately. Meanwhile, a super angry Wang Chongqing woke up to find absolutely 0 of his own hired hands had shown up. Every single worker went to our guy instead. Furious, he grabbed 2 loyal servants and marched straight over to see this nonsense himself. He honestly believed our hero was burning cash to steal his status. Arriving, the site was totally buzzing. One squad dug out the kiln, another team hauled river mud, while women quickly gathered firewood. Taking one look, he just burst out laughing. He realized it was a simple brick operation. To him, an obvious losing business model. Basic mud bricks were too cheap for wealthy elites and way too pricey for locals. This tiny kiln pushed 5,000 per batch, pulling maybe 10 taels monthly. After feeding and paying that massive crew, he would lose a fortune. Plus, 0 local market existed for mud bricks anyway. So, he casually sat in a fancy brought chair, sipping hot tea from a purple clay pot, watching the entire operation, like totally free entertainment. Now, pay close attention here, because this is where everything gets wild. 4 days later, that new kiln finished, taking in 5,000 fresh mud brick molds. He split the crews perfectly. Some fed hot fires, some prepped the next batch. Others chopped heavy mountain timber. The finest logs went to the house. Scraps became fuel. Wang Chongqing kept visiting, lazily lounging in his chair, happily counting expenses with a smug grin. He felt totally certain our boy would go broke. Then one servant mentioned the massive construction happening back at home. That old broken yard was completely torn down, walls smashed, ground perfectly leveled, deep foundations dug, boasting a gorgeous stone path. Even the old entrance tree became a stunning landscaped feature with lovely flowers. Brand new fencing featured main and side gates. Beneath a sturdy new shed, his ox and cart rested safely. Right next door, a bamboo coop held plump chickens already grown to the size of big rice bowls. Wang Chongshen leaped from his fancy chair, sprinting to look himself. What he discovered was absolutely not a sad, broken-down shack anymore. This was a sprawling compound. He never realized that while he lazily counted pennies, our hero built an incredible estate he could not even fathom. While work hummed at the busy kiln, sneaky Wang Chongshen shamelessly snooped around the property. I know exactly what you are thinking. Nosy neighbors always cause major trouble, right? Spotting a sturdy backshed with thick log pillars, that fool actually climbed a tree to peek over. He spotted the horse. That fierce black barbarian warhorse supposedly turned over with the dangerous bandit prisoner earlier. His jealous face turned totally pale with wild excitement. In his mind, he just found perfect evidence for destruction. Hiding military horses was an absolute crime, punishing the entire family forever. Shaking with pure thrill, he snapped a tree branch and literally fell right down. Waning heard a loud crash outside, but before she even checked, he was already hobbling away, clutching his bruised backside with his servants, loudly muttering bitter threats. Private Warhorse, 9 generations completely ruined. Just you wait, Lu Feng. He fully intended to report this straight to the county magistrate by morning. Oblivious to this absolute drama, our guy just watched his blazing kiln, sweat rolling down his face, feeling exactly like a legendary king building his empire. Suddenly, he spotted several fast riders approaching. The Granda Escort Agency banner snapped proudly overhead. Wang rode up looking totally radiant. Behind her, Master Ji traveled inside a small sedan chair, heavily guarded by fierce, armed fighters. "Husband, I am here," Wang happily shouted the exact second she arrived, pink cheeks shining bright. Master Ji groaned loudly from inside his chair. So much for proper maidenly restraint, he warned her. If the wives heard her boldly shouting husband before anything became official, tonight would bring major bedroom trouble. She blushed bright red like an apple, but stood her ground. She boldly claimed she would sort things out with the wives herself. Master Ji quickly interrupted this hilarious chaos. The job finished. Tiger Bones sold for 3,350 taels. After taking their agency commission, his cut was 3,050 taels in clean banknotes and loose silver. Honest accounting. They never skimmed that extra 300 from the massive sale. He deeply respected that, leading everyone home. The place looked unfinished, but charming. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what happens when those Panic Sisters finally meet the new girl. Let's dive into this chaos. Very important guests showed up, and the yard was a total disaster. Everyone scrambled, brewed tea, and bowed nervously beside me. Wu Sheng watched my 2 wives fussing and giggled happily. She was totally sizing them up. If things went her way, she'd be sharing a household with these women. I introduced everyone perfectly calmly. The sisters totally froze at the words escort agency. To them, that meant dangerous, seriously powerful people. They had zero idea one of those scary fighters was already calling me husband behind their backs. One king recognized Wu Zhang's name instantly, the famous warrior woman of Wang County. Both sisters immediately straightened up and greeted her properly. Wu Sheng grabbed their hands, showered them with endless compliments about their beauty, and said she finally understood why I was so utterly devoted. Within minutes, the 3 girls were chatting like absolute lifelong friends. I just left them alone. 3 women chatting makes a whole drama, and they would all share one roof eventually. I went over and sat down with Master Ji. He looked around the half-finished property and kindly offered to let my family stay at the agency. For winter, warm rooms, food, and charcoal, totally covered. I thanked him, but respectfully declined. I designed a heated brick bed that keeps us warmer than any stove. He was super intrigued and wanted details. But before I could even explain, Kinger shrieked with pure excitement across the yard. He actually agreed. The three women had apparently settled absolutely everything already. Wu Shang had completely charmed my wives. Out in the backyard, she somehow got both sisters onto the black horse and taught them basic riding. In minutes, the beast was totally tame. They fed it daily, so it completely trusted them. Half an hour later, Master Ji reluctantly dragged Wu Sheng away. She really didn't want to leave. "You are gonna love this part." I asked what they discussed, and Kinger whispered they were actually already planning the wedding. Gifts, new clothes, and room decorations. One King was running numbers on total costs. They wanted to do it right, partly to make up for their own bare-bones ceremony. They saved nearly every single coin I gave them to spend on preparations. I smiled and told them I had the exact same idea. I wanted to give them a proper ceremony too. The beautiful wedding they never got. I promised to take care of them both. They would live in a huge house, eat well, and never suffer again. That was a solid promise. Kinger looked up, and I kissed her before she could even respond. Then I turned and kissed One King. She totally protested. It was broad daylight. The gate was wide open. Workers could walk in any time. But her protest didn't last long. The thrill of getting caught excited her way more than she would ever admit. We ended up right on the tea table in the open yard. An hour later, I finally got myself dressed and happily headed back to work. Both wives were still totally flushed, legs unsteady. Kinger looked at me with huge round eyes, begging me to just let her sleep through the night for once and spend the evening with her sister instead. One King shot her a fierce look that meant, "Do not dare volunteer me alone." I just laughed and walked toward the kiln, feeling like the absolute luckiest man alive. I was still joking with the sisters when I suddenly spotted the constables approaching. "Now, pay attention, everything flips right here." Leading them was my brother-in-law Mu Xiaoliang. I smiled, but his face was grim. "Arrest him." My stomach dropped. A dozen wild thoughts flashed through my mind, but I chose not to resist. Running meant abandoning absolutely everything I built. "What is this about? Someone reported you for keeping a military horse. That is a major crime. The magistrate personally ordered your arrest." The heavy wooden collar snapped right around my neck. So humiliating. Xiao Liang whispered that if I cooperated and handed the horse over, my capture of that barbarian scout might actually earn me leniency. The sisters heard the commotion and ran outside. Kinger saw me in chains, went completely pale, and fainted on the spot. One King caught her, fiercely demanding answers from her brother. Xiao Liang could not even look them in the eye. I stayed perfectly calm, telling One King to bring that specific thing to save me. She understood immediately. The silk pouch the old hermit had secretly given me. The one, he said, could totally save a life in a true crisis. She ran inside to find it, then gathered every single piece of silver in the house. The horse was waiting in the backyard. They found it in minutes. No point denying anything. The hard evidence was right there. I already figured out exactly who reported me. Wang Chong. He was literally the only one with motive and opportunity. He must have spotted the horse when he secretly climbed that tree. 2 hours later, I was forced to kneel in the magistrate court. "Who are you? Where do you live? What is your terrible crime?" The magistrate sat beneath a bright and just plaque, looking anything but fair. He slammed his wooden block, calling me a brazen criminal. His advisor chimed right in. By law, the punishment was the ultimate penalty. "Bring the witness." Wang Chong limped in, dropping to his knees. "Trust me, this gets wild. Stick with me here." He points at the black horse, entering the hall, spilling everything. He saw me bring the horse and the barbarian captive home. Thought I handed it over, but nope, I hid it in my backyard. The guy actually almost snapped his leg climbing a tree just to spy on me. The magistrate and his advisor start their little rehearsed routine. Guilt confirmed. Penalty clear. Punishment demanded. Meanwhile, Wonking races toward the city with that mysterious pouch, all our silver coins, and one incredibly desperate plan. She plans to bribe her way through Xiaoliang, then grab Wang at the escort agency for backup. That silk pouch? A total last resort. She barely even trusts. I just kneel on the freezing stone floor, waiting it out. I have survived way worse than shady officials. If the pouch fails, cash talks. And if the silver fails, well, no prison in this entire county can hold me anyway. Exactly. As I figured, Wang Chongqing is the snitch who reported me. I still cannot figure out how he spotted that horse out back, but whatever. It really does not matter now. In my mind, his fate is sealed. The magistrate is about to drop the final sentence when Wang Chongqing suddenly interrupts him. He isn't satisfied with just the horse charge. He points out I went from a broke drunk to a guy building brick kilns and renovating properties in mere weeks. So, where did all that sudden cash come from? He suggests I am the guy who raided the pawn shop. The magistrate's greedy eyes light up like glowing lanterns. Now watch closely. He is desperate to close this case. Thousands of tails vanished, 0 leads, and the pawn shop was his. If he pins this on me, he solves the mystery and snatches all my assets instantly. My stomach ties in 2 tight knots. Because the pawn shop raid actually was my doing, and the silver sitting at home really came from the gambling house heist. If they search my property thoroughly, I am completely finished. Money absolutely cannot fix this mess anymore. The official would just pocket my bribe and end me anyway. He asks Musha Yang to confirm Wang Chongqing's bold claims. My brother-in-law has absolutely no choice but to admit that yes, I am building and spending heavily. He tries adding context, but the official cuts him right off. Capital punishment tomorrow at noon. The absolute final penalty. Then a voice like a bronze bell shakes the entire courtroom. Hold it. Shiningu, the county jailer, walks in like a moving mountain. He stares the magistrate straight in the eyes. End this man, and you perish too. He slams the yellow silk pouch right on the desk. The old hermit's mysterious gift. The magistrate glances at it dismissively, then completely freezes. His face drains of all color. The pouch features gold thread, cloud, silk, a material strictly reserved exclusively for the imperial family. Only direct relatives of the emperor are ever permitted to possess this. Shuninu explains exactly what it represents. He has seen similar items only once before, on imperial edicts carried by his old general. Whatever sits inside that pouch connects directly to the absolute highest power in the empire. The magistrate reaches out with trembling hands, desperate to peek. Chun Dainyu slaps his trembling hand away. Open that, and your whole clan is erased. The magistrate recoils like he just touched hot fire. His fingers shake violently. He stares at me kneeling there, completely unable to comprehend how a village nobody possesses something this dangerously powerful. Wang Chongshan stays pressed flat to the ground, forehead dripping cold sweat, barely daring to breathe. You and I are just as confused. The old man claimed he just stumbled upon this thing. He is supposed to be a retired fortune teller. Did he actually read the stars for the imperial family? Wangqing made all of this happen. She followed the prisoner escort to the city, found Wang at the agency, and together they rushed straight to Shininu. The very second he saw that pouch, he understood its massive significance and stormed the courtroom. Now, the magistrate calls Chun Dainyu sir instead of jailer, practically begging for advice on what to do. Chun Yu turns around to admire the black horse. Fine animal. You notice the empire lacks quality horses, right, magistrate? Did the governor's office not recently order all counties to start breeding and raising strong military horses? He is building me an escape route, totally reframing the crime as patriotic service. I just kneel there silently and let the smartest man in the room do his brilliant work. The magistrate catches onto Chun Dainu's heavy hint immediately. Case completely dismissed. Lu Feng is officially innocent. He declares that since I possess exceptional horse-raising skills, I am hereby ordered, under the governor's directive, to establish a farm in Saiwa village and breed war horses for the empire. The county's existing stable of over 300 military horses will be transferred to my care. I get 30 taels monthly for feed, 10 taels for every successfully bred foal, and 30 taels for every battle-ready warhorse produced. I can barely contain my excitement. A horse farm in ancient times is literally like owning a gold mine. Trust me on this. The Monkey King started by tending horses and ended up challenging heaven itself. Stick with me. Let's see where this wild journey takes us. Shiningu grinned, unlocked my chains personally, and slipped that mysterious silk pouch right back into my hand. When asked what was really inside, he just laughed, completely lacking the courage to check. Seeing those contents could end things terribly for you. Meanwhile, Wang Chongshan kept kneeling on the floor, shaking like a little leaf. The furious magistrate turned on him, making false accusations against a fellow innocent villager. Pure jealousy toward a talented man, and totally failing his duties as village chief. 100 heavy strikes of the punishment rod. His position as village chief was totally stripped and handed to me. Wang Chong begged, smashing his forehead hard against the stone floor. It changed absolutely nothing. They dragged him outside and beat him on the bench. He was already badly injured from that wild boar attack earlier. Just a few strokes in, he screamed and fell unconscious. He would be totally ruined by the time they finished. I went to inspect the county stable. 300 war horses stood in rows, looking like an absolutely pitiful sight. Skinny, dull, and poorly fed. The magistrate had been pocketing the feed budget. These magnificent animals that were supposed to defend our empire could barely stand straight. Chun Dainyu just shook his head sadly at their awful state. But I told him not to worry. Their bones were still incredibly solid. With proper feeding and care, these horses could become battle-ready within months. Watch closely. The emperor actually dispatched his absolute greatest commander straight to the Yuzhou border, a fierce woman known as the Scarlet Feather General, leading the legendary Fongling army. She literally became a general at just 16. Wielding twin swords, blue armor, a white cape, and a red feather, symbolizing her undeniable supreme authority. Nobody knew her true name. Xinyu mentioned that working hard enough might let him join the great Fongling army someday. Every guy in the empire absolutely dreamed of serving under the Scarlet Feather banner. I joked that if I met this famous female general, she would easily become my fourth wife. He nearly choked, laughing, warning that her 4 fierce vice commanders would absolutely ruin me for saying that. The very next day, 300 horses marched to Saiwa village. Tian Lao Ba rallied everyone and built a basic horse farm in just one day. The county sent a minor official, 3 constables, and 30 soldiers to guard this operation. That arrogant official thought he was too important for a simple grass hut. Heading home after just one night, feeding 300 horses was a truly massive operation. Every single woman was cutting grass, and it somehow still wasn't enough. I asked Wang to use his escort agency network to buy feed supplies from across the entire region. Wheat bran, bean husks, everything those horses needed to survive winter. Half a month quickly passed. The first frost arrived, temperatures dropped sharply, and my very first batch of bricks emerged from the kiln, perfectly fired and completely ready for building. Crazy, right? I was now the village chief, horse farm owner, and a man the magistrate was completely afraid to touch. Wang Chongshan was bedridden and broken. This village was officially mine. That first kiln produced over 4,000 usable bricks, easily enough for my massive winter projects. When the second rotation of guards finally arrived for our horse farm, Mu Zhaoyang was among them. I immediately put him and 2 other constables to work on construction. He just stared at the brick structure I was building, completely confused about what it was. I told him it was called a heated bed platform, brilliantly connected straight to the cooking stove. It used the fire's heat to perfectly warm the entire sleeping surface. You could literally sleep uncovered in freezing winter and feel absolutely nothing but pure comfort. He didn't believe me until it was finished 2 days later. I also installed a water jar between the 2 stoves, letting the fire keep it perfectly warm. Not boiling, but enough so washing hands in winter wouldn't be absolute agony. Xie Yang intensely studied every single step, planning to build one for his own wife when returning home. The house frame was nearly done too, thanks to Tian La's crew. 3 more days, and we would have a solid roof. Then I would move everything from the old straw hut, completely tear it down, and come springtime, build a massive storehouse with secret hidden rooms right on that spot. Wang Dian and the other apprentices had finally become competent under my intense training. Their archery improved so dramatically. They brought home enough rabbits and pheasants that I never needed to hunt anymore. Meat was simply no longer a concern. Over dinner with Xiao Yang, enjoying stewed pheasant, meat, porridge, and strong red wine, he delivered a serious warning I needed to hear. 3 dangerous bandit gangs operated across Wang County. The biggest was called Sky Beyond Sky. Then there was High Reed Peak. The most dangerous was downstream, Fort, located where 7 waterways merged right at the border between 2 counties. Hundreds of ruthless villains lived there. During winter, when rivers froze, they lost their income from tolls and fishing. So, they would violently raid nearby villages. Recently, they grew incredibly bold, destroying entire settlements and aggressively attacking military supply convoys. 300 valuable war horses would be an absolutely irresistible target. 1 horse fetched over 100 taels. Trust me, we know. My farm was a massive fortune that could easily feed their dangerous gang for life. Stick with me here. Those 50 assigned guards? Just rookies who could barely hold swords. 1 seasoned bandit charge would wipe them completely out. I thanked Shang, totally serious. Wang warned me about the bandits before, but these details made it super urgent. I really needed my own strike force. A hunting crew acting as my private militia. Tough guys trained in mountain combat who could hunt for profit and guard our village. Later that night, chilling between my 2 wives after our evening routine, I mapped the entire master plan. The horse farm, the brick kiln, the new mansion I expanded land, Wang's escort agency connection, and soon, my very own trained elite squad. Everything was finally falling together. By spring, Saiwa village would be an absolute fortress under my control. I started immediately, calling in Wang Dian, Jiang Hongda, and Li Long. I tested their archery skills, pushing them to craft mass arrows while I built 6 heavy bows from Tian La's stored mulberry wood. Every single bow easily hit over 100 paces. Then I picked 6 solid village guys, organizing the whole group into 3-man squads, using my 3 top apprentices as the squad leaders. 9 elite fighters total. I sent them into the mountains for intense hunting training. 3-man cells backing each other up, moving as 1 unit. The exact same legendary formation that won massive wars in my old world. They barely left before Tian La came sprinting over, completely breathless. Our horse farm feed reserves were basically gone. That major escort agency shipment should have arrived yesterday, but nothing showed. 2 days of feed left for 300 horses. Watch closely. You and I both know something is wrong. 2/3 of the government funds went straight to them. Wu Sanong would never just vanish with cash. I saddled my black horse, named War, rushing toward town, but honestly, did not get far before spotting the battered supply convoy limping back. Every single guard was seriously injured. They explained the chaos. On the road from Chishu County, a giant bear ambushed them completely unprovoked. The exact same beast terrorizing our local mountains. Chief Wu Sanong fought it head-on just to protect his crew and the cargo. He got brutally wrecked. Wu Shang literally dragged her dad from the beast's jaws, barely saving him. She ordered the lightly injured guys forward with the supplies while rushing her dad straight to town for emergency healing. The escort handed me a thick stack of banknotes. The agency refunded everything. Feeling guilty for the failure, Wu Sanong refused to keep a single coin. That seriously ticked me off. They got mangled doing my job. I refused to take money from hurt men. I ordered them to unload, then told the sisters to cook heavy meat porridge for everyone. After they ate, I rode straight to the agency. Stepping inside, the overwhelming scent of herbal medicine smacked me right in the face. A dozen clay pots were bubbling outside, brewing heavy remedies for the wounded. Wu Sanong was lying on a wooden board, way too injured for a real bed. Wang was kneeling right beside him, crying her eyes out. She tried hunting that beast earlier with a few escorts, but found absolutely nothing. Now, she was screaming at Master Gi, begging for the family's legendary Bao to hunt it down. Gi blocked the door, desperately trying to calm her. She lacked the strength to pull that Bao. Plus, the bear had already wrecked her father and 12 pros. Going alone meant certain doom. If I cannot pull it, someone else can, she screamed. I will find him. If he is too scared to help, I was blind to want him. Master Gi replied coldly. Even if Lu Fo agrees, your dad might not make it. Are you dragging him down too? That broke her. She crumpled, totally lost. Now here is where you and I cheer, my voice echoed from the courtyard. How is the chief doing? Her head snapped right up, seeing me striding over with pure worry on my face. The massive relief flooding her eyes, completely unforgettable. Right at her absolute breaking point, I finally showed up. Rushing into the main hall, my stomach instantly dropped. Chief Wu Sanong was in brutal shape. Heavy bandages were completely soaked red across his chest, arms, and legs. Worst of all, a massive bear claw had totally shredded his abdomen. A fraction slower, and that single strike would have ended him instantly. Only his intense years of martial arts training kept him breathing this long. 2 local doctors just stood there shaking their heads, claiming not even the legendary physician Huatua could save him now. The absolute best they could offer was keeping him comfortable for a few days. Wu Shang completely broke down, begging me to avenge her dad. I touched Wu Sanong's forehead, feeling a blazing fever. I had seen enough battle injuries to know the truth. Major infection. The physical wounds were not life-threatening, with 0 organ damage. No major fluid loss, but bacteria was spreading quickly, and without treatment, he would be gone in 2 to 3 days. No modern medicine here, but ancient times require epic solutions. Trust me, you will want to see this. I immediately barked orders. Stick with me here. I brewed honeysuckle and dandelion, forcing it down his throat every 30 minutes. Then I begged Master Gi for endless garlic and mugwort. Garlic has insanely powerful natural antibacterial properties. Mugwort could be processed into something like the miracle medicine that completely revolutionized my old modern world. These herbal brews wouldn't magically cure him, but they would slow the infection and buy us precious time. The panicked doctors had never seen these weird combinations before. I had 0 time to argue. Master Gi checked the fading man, then confidently made the tough call. Just do what he says. I'll take responsibility. I promised the injured escorts that the exact same medicine would be prepared for everyone. Our agency abandons absolutely nobody. I scanned the quiet room. Wang asked what she should do. Get your weapons. We are taking that bear down. Her eyes went wide. Just the 2 of us? Every capable fighter in the agency was injured or needed right here. There was nobody else. She fiercely set her jaw. Fine. If we fall, we go down together. Husband and wife in the afterlife. She reached for the family Bao, but I quickly stopped her. That massive weapon was super slow to draw and weighed an absolute ton. Totally useless against a charging beast up close. I had my trusty crossbow. Just follow my lead. I swung onto Wu and reached down for her hand. She actually hesitated. Sharing 1 horse meant pressing her entire body against mine, and we weren't even married yet. The fearless warrior woman was suddenly super shy. I teased her, asking if she was scared about breaking tradition. That definitely worked. She grabbed my hand, vaulted up behind me, and wrapped her arms tightly around my waist. I could actually feel her heart hammering against my back. My clever horse started running with this dramatically exaggerated, swaying gait, deliberately bouncing her against me with every single stride. She gasped and held tighter, which honestly only made things wilder. Her face burned bright red against my shoulder. Is this crazy horse broken? She demanded. I joked that Wu was a wild barbarian stallion who hadn't been near a mare in way too long. Just hold tight. She squeezed harder. I grinned into the wind. This amazing woman was exactly everything I wanted. Brave, deeply honest, and fiercely built like an absolute goddess. Winning her heart fully meant endless stamina and pure loyalty. Every single man's ultimate dream come true right there. A guy could dream. War was incredibly fast, so we reached the messy ambush site super quickly. Wang held onto me incredibly tight. I could feel every single curve of her athletic body against my back. She was completely flustered, heart aggressively pounding, face burning, making tiny, confused sounds. She had never been this physically close to a man before, and genuinely thought she might literally faint. Arriving there, overturned carts and scattered feed completely confirmed the intense story. Scattered vegetables and radishes were half eaten. The beast was hungry, but not completely starving. That was actually surprisingly good news. A truly desperate bear fights with pure fury. A fed one is slower, less reckless. I securely tied War to a tree. The horse was surprisingly relaxed, proving the monster wasn't nearby. If it was close, he'd be panicking. I handed Wang my hunting bow, keeping the heavy crossbow and trusty spear for myself. Now pay attention, because our options were incredibly limited here. Just 2 people and 0 time for proper pit traps. So, we chose a snare instead. We found a flexible tree, bent it down together, and rigged a clever rope loop on the ground, perfectly camouflaging it with some fallen leaves. It wouldn't hold a huge monster long, but even a few short seconds of confusion gives us our perfect striking window. I told her to stay completely hidden, wait for the beast to step into our snare, then launch an all-out attack while it was heavily tangled. We didn't wait long. A huge crashing sound came from the trees. The beast finally emerged. Black fur, a massive frame standing upright like an absolute wall of muscle. 3 meters tall, 2 meters wide, enormous claws viciously raking the ground, roaring. Seeing this monster in person, I easily understood how Wang Fei had fallen instantly, and how Wu Sanong was nearly taken out. My brave apprentices were incredibly lucky to still be breathing. The huge bear locked onto me and charged. I raised my crossbow, firing at its head. The beast was moving incredibly fast, shaking wildly from side to side. The heavy bolt hit its shoulder instead. It sank deep into the fat layer and stuck there. The beast roared in pain, barely slowing down. That blubber was basically armor. You and I know exactly what this means. It was now entirely focused on me. I quickly turned and sprinted toward the trap. Then everything went wrong. Wang panicked. The beast's roar shook her nerves, making her reflexively swing her sword the entirely wrong direction. The sharp sound violently whistled right past me. I tried dodging, but my foot caught something. The thick snare loop suddenly tightened right around my ankle. The bent tree fiercely snapped upright with terrifying force, violently yanking me into the air. I was hanging upside down from my own trap, helplessly swinging, while a furious, wounded beast charged straight at me. I was dangling upside down from my own trap like a total idiot. The unexpected jerk knocked my spear and crossbow loose. They tumbled helplessly toward the ground. Instantly, I clamped my feet together, catching the spear. That's where we leave it, trust me. You'll definitely want to see what happens next. Let's dive right into this. The vine loop was wide and loose, only snagging me by accident. But swinging upward, that slack gave my arms and legs total freedom. The massive bear charged right beneath me, leaping up with huge claws. That was exactly what I needed. Kicking free from the vine, I flipped my spear. Using all that wild, falling momentum, I drove it straight into the giant beast's forehead. The blade punched deep into its skull. The massive body crumpled beneath me, breaking my fall perfectly like a cushion. I rolled away without a scratch. Wang saw me yanked up and totally thought I was finished. Gripping her sword, she charged the beast in pure blind rage, screaming wildly that she would destroy it. Then my voice told her to stop. Freezing mid-stride, she quickly looked over, spotting me standing there, grinning right beside the defeated monster. The shaft came out super clean when I pulled, but that iron tip stayed completely buried inside. 3 silver pieces, gone forever. Dropping her sword, she ran to me, sobbing and apologizing endlessly for almost getting me totally crushed. She clung tight, her warm tears soaking my neck. Only a head shorter than me, pressing close, crying and shaking just like that. She was absolutely irresistible right then. Tilting her chin up, I whispered, "You almost got me ruined. I think you owe me some serious compensation." Compensation? She blinked through tears, totally confused. I kissed her. Her body went completely rigid, arms frozen, trembling, her brain entirely short-circuiting. "Watch closely here." I softened the kiss, holding her gently until she finally relaxed, and just let it happen. In her mind, a kiss was just a kiss. She had seen young escorts sneaking off to town plenty of times. She could handle this. No big deal. A kiss meant nothing. Then I pulled her way closer, completely against me. Zero space between us. Her courage instantly shattered. "Wait, not ready." Shoving me back, guarding her chest, her face burned redder than I had ever seen. But suddenly, something shifted in her eyes. Marching right back, she grabbed my face and kissed me. Not graceful, more like biting. Wild, super clumsy, and completely real. After a moment, she whispered, "Enough." Then she firmly took my hand, placing it right on her chest over her clothes. I was absolutely stunned. This supposedly innocent girl was suddenly playing me like an elite master. Classic push and pull, advance and retreat. Before I pushed further, she jumped back like a startled rabbit, face totally blazing. "That is all until we are married. You want more? Go home to your wives, or show up at the big martial arts contest and actually win. Win big. Because if you lose, I will finish you on stage, then end my own story. You stole my first kiss. You feel that intensity, right?" I just laughed. This amazing woman was something else entirely. Fierce, pure, bold, and playing a wild game I never expected. She deserved absolutely everything I could give her. Heading back, she flat out refused to share the horse initially. I eventually convinced her though. The same bouncing, the same pressing, the same burning red cheeks. Reaching the escort agency, she was completely undone. She hated every single second of that bumpy ride, yet she never wanted it to end. On the ride back, I had a fun chat with Wooer about his epic reward. 10 carats, plus a pretty mate. He got so extremely hyped, he almost bucked me right off. I had to negotiate that greedy horse down to 2 mares, though. Seeing his stubby northern build right beside the huge war horses at the farm, I honestly wondered how those logistics would even work out. Back at the escort agency, I had guys grab the fallen beast, while all that scattered feed got hauled back to the village. It was way too late to ride home, so I stayed overnight. Master G had followed my careful instructions absolutely perfectly. Fresh bulk garlic collected, herbal meds given hourly. Wu Sanong's condition was holding steady, a very good sign. I got straight to work extracting whatever I could from that garlic. Wu Zhang's team peeled literal mountains of it, while I built a wild distillation setup using every single bottle and jar in the entire agency. That concentrated garlic extract went right onto Wu Sanong's deep wounds. We made him and the worst injured escorts drink the liquid form. 3 local doctors watched with pure, open contempt, fully expecting him to perish so they could just laugh at my wild methods. Wang kept her total distance from that fallen beast when the men returned. She charged it with a sword yesterday, but couldn't even look today. Women are such complete mysteries. Next morning, hit the bustling market, bought premium mulberry wood for a new bow, grabbed a fresh spear tip, and ordered extra arrowheads. Running that official horse farm gave me perfect legal cover. Government paperwork required facility guards, so nobody ever once questioned my massive bulk orders for military-grade gear. The authorities had absolutely no clue that half would arm my private hunting squads, while the rest gets sold through the agency for pure profit. We are leaving it right here. He woke up thanking the doctors, totally assuming they were the ones who saved him. Let's dive in. Wang glared at those useless doctors, setting things straight. It was Lu Fo. He showed up when you were fading, used mysterious methods nobody recognized, then totally destroyed the giant beast that nearly took you out. Wu Sanong choked on his drink in shock. He seriously dismissed our guy as just some bulky farmer with the heavy bow. Now, he is a legendary healer and a beast hunter. Master Gi broke down the entire epic truth. Our hero did not just save him. He refused the refund, brought premium supplies, gifted them the beast to sell, and kept their partnership going strong. Hearing this, the old man fell completely silent. He looked down on Lu Fo as unworthy of his daughter. In return, our guy saved his life, his crew, and his entire business. That escort agency was totally collapsing before he arrived. Those rare bones, the giant beast, and that feed contract absolutely saved them from ruin. Wang stood, eyes practically glowing with love. He could not fight it anymore. Wu Sanong slapped his thigh in defeat, then instantly winced from his injuries. He announced they were heading to Saiwa village tomorrow. Time to thank this legend personally. That martial arts contest definitely had deeper layers. Wu Sanong had secret reasons for pushing the formal traditional rules. But deep down, he had already accepted our guy as his son-in-law. It was totally obvious. Back home, his two lovely wives had fallen asleep outside. Wrapped in thin coats, braving the cold, they stayed up all night waiting for him. They were absolutely freezing. He gently carried them inside, one by one, and tucked them away safely. Now watch closely, things get crazy. He went to confront Wang Chongshan. The ruined estate said it all, gates locked, leaves piled up, pure silence. His brother was gone, his wife, divorced and tossed right out. His workers actually joined Lu Fo, even the butler bailed. The legendary Wang estate was down to one old cook and two miserable servants. Stepping inside, he found Wang Chongshan totally defeated, collapsed on a bed. Those 100 brutal strikes from the magistrate ruined him. Seeing our hero, he completely panicked, screaming and scrambling into a dark corner. He knew the truth. He failed to eliminate Lu Fo. And now, payback time. Sitting on the bed, our hero asked just one simple question. Do you want to survive? Instinct kicked in instantly. Yes, whatever you want. So easy. Hand over every single family deed. Holding up 5 fingers, the guy guessed 500 taels, nearly fainting. His whole place was not even worth that anymore. 50 taels, Lu Fo declared, delivering a sharp slap. Wang cried robbery. Extortion? Not quite. He told him to reframe it. Wang literally spent 50 taels bribing officials to have him taken out. This was just evening the score, plus a bonus land deal. Then, he demanded the location of the secret savings. He held out for maybe 10 seconds before fear won. Spilling everything, our hero emptied the household. Gold, silver, and 2 huge boxes of premium village land deeds. Bam! He tossed a 50 tael note right onto the bed. I keep my promises. 50 taels for it all. But starting right now, this is the Lu estate. Let that sink in. 3 days is insanely generous. Pack up, or get dragged out. Wang managed one pathetic, shaking response. Fine. Walking out, he casually jumped up, smashed the Wang family plaque into absolute splinters, and told the cook to use it for firewood. Wang would grab his 50 taels and flee the county. But on the open road, he definitely hit bandits. In this chaotic era, that was a total guarantee. The silver would instantly be snatched away. His survival after that was up to heaven. The crucial part, he wouldn't meet his end inside the village. Falling here meant Lu Fo gets the blame. Falling out there to brutal bandits? Well, that is just the harsh reality of this dangerous world. 50 taels, the absolute last shred of value Wang would ever generate. If those greedy bandits eventually track that silver back to Saiwa village, oh, our guy would be locked, loaded, and totally ready for them. Everything was calculated. He had been analyzing the Wanhuang County bandit problem. That downstream water fortress? A massive threat. Hundreds hiding in a river maze, practically impossible to clear. The other 2 gangs were much smaller. Sky Beyond Sky boasted roughly 100 fighters. High Reed Peak had maybe 80 guys. Still way too many to solo, especially with his growing family to protect. He already had Yang contact Sky Beyond Sky through the agency's underworld connections. Honestly, they were the most reasonable crew of the 3. They took cash and honor deals. By his math, their messenger should be arriving right now. Walking home loaded with seized treasure, he sensed someone hiding in the branches above. He just casually kept walking. A shadow drops, blade to his spine, muttering the code. Sky beyond sky. You and I are officially hooked. Let's dive right in. Meet Wang Dinglu, scruffy, small, but seriously sharp-eyed. I purposely dropped my box, sending silver coins scattering everywhere. I watched his reaction closely. His gaze just flickered to the cash, then went totally clear. Zero greed. A perfect sign. I laid out the deal right then. Wang Chongzhan would leave the area in 3 days, carrying about 50 taels on him. 4 people total. A master, 2 servants, and a cook. Easy targets. Wang Dinglu understood instantly. He locked in the job, promised to tell his boss, and mentioned Sky Beyond Sky was open for future work, assuming the pay was actually good enough. Then he literally vanished into the trees. Total professional. I liked that style. If his whole guild acted this way, I'd recruit them eventually. Back at the house, the sisters eagerly waited with hot porridge. I gently scolded them for standing outside, joking that catching a bad chill could totally ruin their chances of giving me a family. That grabbed their attention instantly. Nothing motivates those 2 girls like the dream of having sons. Next, I sent Tian Lao Ba and a whole crew up the mountain with an ox cart. Their mission? Dig out every single sweet potato there. They brought back 3 massive cartloads, a literal mountain of food. They can't survive the freezing frost, so we stuffed them inside the new house. Come springtime, I'll plant them across all my dry hillside property. The river fields handle rice and veggies, but those rocky slopes need something super tough and highly productive. Sweet potatoes were the perfect answer. I had someone steam a massive batch of porridge for everybody. Then I headed straight to the horse farm. The animals looked amazing. Shiny coats, sturdy frames. They would be fully healed and powerful by springtime. Wu was pacing nervously between 2 Mars. I matched him with. I just laughed and slapped his back. 10 times a day, minimum, buddy. We need results. And honestly, this was way bigger than just casual breeding. If I crossed that wild northern barbarian speed and crazy endurance with our towering local horses, the babies could totally inherit the best of both worlds. Now pay attention here. A horse like that equals a massive fortune. Every imperial army would beg for them. Wu just stared at me blankly. I told him to figure it out. I handpicked 2 amazing Mars for him, feeding them a special soybean diet. As for Wu, he got the finest feed on the farm, plus an egg every day. If this epic crossbreeding worked, mixing that northern speed with pure local size, we were talking incredible riches. My team was fully organized. Tian La managed the horse farm because he was sharp enough to handle the tricky county officials. Wang San, a former hunter with solid carpentry skills, ran our brick kiln. Yang, easily the most honest guy, oversaw house construction and would lead our massive sweet potato fields project come springtime. These 3 guys were here from day 1. They absolutely earned my complete trust. Plus, my 9 hunters, 3 squad leaders, and 6 fighters, all training hardcore up in the mountains daily. After checking the farm and kiln, I headed home. The sisters had made amazing sweet potato porridge, savory wild boar meat, and warm wine wrapped in oiled paper. These 2 managed our home flawlessly. Plus, Winging brought news. Her childhood friend wrote back. They wanted to meet in Tony City during the Great Snow Festival. That's the biggest epic celebration, even wilder than New Year's. The whole city would be partying. This was actually perfect timing. Wang's massive martial arts contest happened at that exact same time and place. I know what you're thinking. Taking my wives, meeting friends, and winning a 3rd wife? Absolutely epic trip. That evening, I carried food and wine up the mountain to see the old hermit. The path was totally covered in fallen leaves. His beautiful flowers had wilted away. I found him resting in his rocking chair, eyes closed, looking completely peaceful. His teacup empty. I called his name. No response. I checked on him. He was gone. He passed quietly on his own terms, exactly like he lived. I respectfully buried him behind his house, facing northwest, exactly as requested. No name on the stone, no dramatic ceremony. He never wanted any fuss, but while sorting his belongings, a fascinating little dagger completely caught my eye. Beautifully crafted, gleaming with cold energy. I tested it against my heavy axe. One single tap, the axe edge curled like paper. This was legendary wrought steel, in an era of cheap iron. This incredible blade could slice right through absolutely anything. The old man secretly gifted me another amazing treasure without saying a word. That dagger sparked a genius idea. My brick kiln was already running perfectly. The next big step, building a proper blast furnace to finally smelt steel. With ruthless bandits threatening from 3 sides and a northern war looming, I desperately needed weapons. Real, devastating weapons. Not that cheap market trash. Buying tiny batches of arrowheads wouldn't cut it anymore. I had to manufacture my very own steel and arm my squad properly. That meant finding a genius blacksmith and an expert carpenter willing to relocate here. So what do you and I make of this? Sitting there planning, Wonkin brought my heavy coat. The storm was definitely picking up. Watch closely. He pulled her right onto his lap. One coat simply wasn't enough. Was she warmer than glowing charcoal? She blushed bright red, playfully protesting just a bit, before unbuttoning her collar and pressing right against him. Her warm skin battled the freezing air.